we go, right at 7 o'clock. All right, this is the Park Commission meeting of June 15th, 2022. We are via Zoom. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being conducted remotely and will be eventually broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel. So obviously this is being recorded. All right, let's do a quick roll call of who is here. Dave Passios.
Here.
Anna Lockwood.
Here.
Pat Hakey.
Here.
Chris Sullivan.
Here.
And also with us tonight is Rec Director Rob Thompson. Pat, am I saying your last name correctly? Maybe.
Yeah. You are.
Okay. All right. One of my pet peeves, like when all of you guys say Anna, and I cringe because it's Anna. Anna was waiting for me to say that someday.
It's Anna.
Well,
It's
you
Anna.
did say Anna today, but you were in a rush, so.
I did.
I-
Maybe
I'm-
you heard me wrong. All right, let's get this started. Do we have any public or board comment tonight? We have a session at the end too, if people need to add to the end. Next up is approval of our minutes. I don't know if everybody saw them on in the Google Drive. We have two sets of minutes. Where did they go? Bear with me one second. They are April 13th and May 18th. Did anybody have a chance to review those?
I did. I
Does
did.
anybody have any changes? Because I do.
I didn't. I mean, I didn't.
Okay.
There was one sentence, Karen, but I did not make a note. But it
Do you
was
remember what it was about?
blatantly incorrect or wrong word or something like that. It was a single sentence that stood alone. I don't know. I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world if we don't get it correct.
All right. So if I look at the April 13th minutes, the corrections I would like to see made are on the second page. There was that, I guess, second section down. It says something about K Menard asked how much usage they are looking for. I would like to take the my rec in that sentence and correct it and make it capitalized where it's supposed to be. Also on the third page of that document, there is something where I had requested purchasing umbrellas for the lifeguard stands. And then it talks about swim lessons. I would like to correct it. It currently says K Menard indicated swim lessons would be $25 a student and $75 a family. I would like to correct that to say K Menard said last year swim lessons were $25 a student, $75 a family per session. And hold on, I never finished this thought. Anne had told Rob if there was any adjustments that needed to be made to come back to us at the May meeting.
Karen, could you
So
repeat
that's,
that? 'Cause I
those are
got
the
lost.
recommendations I'm making on that one. Does anybody have any concerns on those adjustments?
Those are
Yeah,
good.
Karen, I got lost on the $75.
Yeah, it basically omitted the session fee, but I wasn't indicating that the swim lessons were going to be 75, be that price this year. I was indicating that last year, this was the price that I was recommending, I guess, keeping them the same as last year because we don't have any other numbers to go off of. And that if Rob reviewed it and thought something needed to be adjusted to come back to our May meeting. And I don't think he felt there was any adjustments that needed to be made.
Right. I remember that part of the meeting in that we were just, as you said, reviewing what we did last year, but we did not vote one way or the other to make
Correct.
any changes. Exactly. I agree.
Okay. So if everybody agrees, if I could get a motion to approve the April 13th, 2022 minutes with those changes.
Motion to approve with those changes.
Second.
A quick roll call on that, Anna. Or actually, any discussion before we roll call vote it? All right, Anna,
I
Chris,
Aye.
Pat.
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
and an aye for myself. All right, the next minutes are the minutes of May 18th. Dave, this might have been the one that you might have found an issue with. So the recommendations that I'm making for changes are to this line. It currently says, Kay Menard asked if Rob Thompson could explore and intro into pickleball. I'm recommending that get corrected to Kay Menard asked if R. Thompson could explore an intro to pickleball. And also correcting the spelling of Anthony Caiozzo's name. I caught it in, I usually only make corrections to spellings of names before I send them out as a draft. I missed it in one section on this. So right under number 3, where it talks about logistics, I didn't change the spelling of his name at all in that paragraph. So I'm recommending changing the spelling of his name to the correct spelling. Does anybody have anything else on that? And did everybody review it? Or are we not ready to approve it?
I'm good.
I did review 'em.
All right, if I could get a motion to approve the minutes of May 18th.
Motion to
So,
approve with the change you talked about.
Either way.
I'll second it. Dave, there you go
Okay.
first. I'll go second.
All
I
right,
meant to say so moved as amended.
okay, great. Does anybody have anything else on that? Quick roll call. Anna,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And it's an aye for myself. All right, that's done. One thing that I forgot to put on the agenda was the time. The skate park folks are going to be joining us for 7:15. So, all right, so the next is a quick update on the meeting that we had with the water district. If you remember at our last meeting, Dave had another one of his marvelous ideas about the property that abuts McNally Field that's owned by the water district, and sort of starting some conversations with them to see if it's some property that we may be able to use. So earlier this week, last week, I don't know, last week, I guess it was, Dave and I went down and we met with the water district. They didn't turn us down. They seemed engaged in the conversation and they asked some good questions. They did ask us to basically pull an overhead map from the GIS, show them the area that we're talking about, and then put some ideas down on paper of what it could be used for. So I'd like to continue, even if I'm not chair of this commission, with Dave on this piece of the water district. So we have some consistency with the people they're talking to, but we would plan on going back to the water district in the next month or so to present a map and maybe some ideas of what it could be used for, including the potential of being able to put a T-ball field over there and to have some additional parking. So.
The only thing I would add to it is at this time, they have no desire to give up the property or the building.
Yep.
Which was not a deal breaker as far as I was concerned. I told them that in my brain, I had 4 scenarios that were possible, and that meeting that we had last week was to just bring those 4 to the table and see how they felt about it. They're very interested in, knowing what we need and what we could accomplish if we were able to use part or all of their property, and very much interested in partnering with us.
Yep. And in typical Karen fashion, I also told them that, if they wanted to put a pool in over on their property, we'd be happy to manage it for them. I tried to, beef up some offerings from the park commission, but they didn't bite.
It's the water district. I mean, they could get.
Well,
the
that's
water
what-
very-
That's how I justified it, by saying, well, you are the water district. You could, fill a pool with water. And I also offered to put the Parks Commission under the water district. They also didn't think that was a good idea. So, it was one of those fun
One
meetings.
of that.
What's that?
I wouldn't want of that.
But it was just an interesting idea. It was on a day that the email was crazy. My email wasn't working properly in town, but they're not part of the change because their email addresses are theirs for the water district. So I'm like, you could give us water district email addresses. Yeah, I'm sure they were like, okay, Karen, you can go home now. So, all right. So that's the update. Does anybody have any questions on that piece?
I think it's great. I think it's a great idea, and certainly continuity is right, for sure. Keep that going.
Do you have your dog off to your shoulder?
Me?
Dog's crate? No,
Yeah,
every
it's a
time,
dog. It's a dog crate.
well, every
Yeah.
time you move, I can see a little bit of a crate and I'm like, it's hard to tell, Chris, with your
No, it's a
virtual.
dog crate.
Okay. The next one is, we had a request for a, Greg, question.
It's just gonna volunteer. If you need help throwing a map together, just let me know. I can help you out.
They were good with us taking the overhead GIS and drawing on it. So we
Okay.
should,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Karen, the only thing is that Greg's got the capability of printing a 2 foot by 3 foot or a 4 foot, but you know. he
Don't
can
underestimate
pull that
my ability. Don't underestimate. my
Okay, okay, if you have the.
Hey,
if you have the,
Karen's a
do
self-described
it.
civil engineer, so she
Exactly.
knows how to do it. Yeah.
Oh, I
Exactly.
know
Hey,
that,
just-
it's just.
If you need a hand,
having
just
the
let me know.
printer to do it, that's all.
Great. You guys, give me 1 minute to get through this bench stuff and then we'll hit you guys. That way we can stay somewhat on agenda. As the Parks Commission, I'm sure saw, we had a request come through back at the beginning of the month from a woman by the name of Karen Blocher. She was interested in a memorial bench at the town beach in honor of her sister, Regina McGee, who was a 20-year resident of Lunenburg and passed away last June. Her family is interested in funding a commemorative bench for her at the town beach, where she spent many happy days. I am a resident of Cincinnati, Ohio, and our park board does have a program of commemorative benches where individuals make donations to the park board to cover the cost of the bench, a wooden bench with engraved small plaque and 10 years of maintenance. She wanted to know if such a program was available in Lunenburg and what's the process for applying one. We don't have a program, so therefore we don't have funding for it. If it's something that the board would support of putting a commemorative bench down there, we can certainly ask either Rob or whoever to work with her to try to figure out what the cost of putting in a low maintenance bench of some sort with a commemorative plaque. Chris had replied back to her. I was on vacation and she did reply again. I can forward it to the group. I'm not sure I did, but she did send a copy of her sister's obituary that was in the ledger in June of 2021. So I can forward that. Is this something that the commission would be interested in supporting and doing some sort of commemorative bench in honor of a resident who's passed?
I think if we identify the right spot on the beach, there's any issue with adding some seating there. We may want to set, I don't think it's become an issue, but, we want to set some limitations and say, we're good at adding this bench, but we envision no more than X number of benches ever being on the beach. Because, it's not a bad slippery slope, but the slippery slope sort of deal of, well, you added a bench for one and now someone wants to add a bench and we can't have a beach of benches.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, I
like,
second what Chris is saying.
we
because-
envision we could put 5 benches along that back fence or whatever we think could go there. Kind of do.
No, I agree with Chris in a way that I think the school committee, and of course my contact list just went off. Just so I can't really see it.
Floating in your brain?
Yeah, I know. But the school has run into issues about memory of former students that passed or teachers, and they had at some point to create a policy about it for various reasons. So I don't know. And it became an issue, I think, when they were expanding the snack shack to also be a locker room, how far that donation could go and what they had rights to do. Because I think it's similar to what we've been talking about with skate park, which is, once you give them the authorization to be there, you get you can't really have inputs about what it will be, how it will be, right? We have discussed that at length. So I think it will be, I think not necessarily about the bench, but we should think about that, having a policy surrounding donations and things that are coming to the park in general, because it can become a slippery slope. And I think it's really an outline.
Yep.
If I could,
Dave,
Rob,
do
I
you
don't
have
know
any?
if you remember or not, there's a minimum, there's at least 3 benches already there, if not 4. But there is room for maybe 1 or 2 more. The portable toilets initially are gonna take up one of the spots that might be appropriate for a added bench. So we already have benches there, and eventually those are gonna need to be repaired or replaced. So I don't have a problem with it.
So I think what my suggestion is, after listening to, or Pat, do you have anything you want to add to this? I don't see you on my screen, so I forgot about you. Sorry. We can't hear you.
Muted, Pat. There you go.
No, I agree. If we're replacing one, why wouldn't we just do that? Replace it with this? If we have ones that are there that are in need of replacement.
I was thinking the same, and Jared Bowser just chimed in as well. There are 2 benches down at the beach. I don't remember their condition. So I think after listening to everybody talk, I don't mind spearheading this, and seeing what some of the other communities around us, if they have any sort of bench donation type things, and see what they put on for stipulations, and then sort of get back to this woman and say, we just want to investigate it a little bit further and figure out how we could make it work that for best for our town beach, and then revisit it, a month or 2 down the road.
The only piece I would add would be, I don't know if she has a particular bench in mind. And so we just want to be mindful, if we're going to add a bench, that we're adding a bench that can be replicated
So
with another bench.
I actually am reading this to mean that, and I meant to look up her city to see what she's talking about. I actually think that where she's from, you actually, their park commission has a program where you buy a bench through them. They handle all the install in honor of somebody and put that little plaque on. So I think that that's how that town is getting by, with probably making sure that all the benches match.
That's how I read her email too. I thought when
yeah.
you and I talked about it briefly, I thought you had said something about, like, we don't have the means of doing it that way.
I don't think we do have the means of doing it that way, but
So
I
that's
think,
why I say, if we go back to her and say, hey, we're all in favor of a bench, but here's the deal, you actually have to physically buy the bench and then we can install it or whatever.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure the bench that's bought is one that,
yeah, we can,
know,
right.
we can buy another one and put it at the beach kind of
Right.
deal. So we don't have 5 different looking benches or
Yeah.
whatever.
We've got to, if we want to be consistent, we've got to specify the bench. So why wouldn't we find out how much a bench is going to cost us to purchase, and then let her know that, unless she has a specific amount in mind to donate already.
I have a way of doing
on
that.
this end. What's that?
I have a way of doing that, I think, because there is at least one bench that was donated in memory of somebody at the primary school. And I know who donated it. And it's, it's like a commercial grade, education grade. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's meant for schools, and it's, a durable bench. And I'm sure that it's, easily available through various catalogs. I can ask what the process was on how he handled that donation and what the requirements were. So,
Right, and also Catherine had brought that up during one of the WOLA presentations, that, as we identify the spots we want benches at Marshall Park, that may be a way to fund those benches throughout the park. So if we develop a policy and a design a bench that we want to use, that could roll right into Marshall Park also.
okay, so let me do some legwork on it. I don't mind unless somebody else wants to do it. and see what we can come up with. Because I think now that you remind me about the WOLA stuff, I think it might be a good idea to maybe able to do something across all of our parks for that sort of thing. Okay. All right. So we will eventually circle back to that. All right. Greg and Anthony from the skate park have joined us. Did everybody see the document, or first of all, did everybody see the email communications from Greg? And did they
Yes.
see the map that he sent along with the location on it?
Share that image if you'd like.
Yeah, do you have, let's see. If you want to share, you're welcome to, Greg. Yep,
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can. I don't know if it was you that froze or me that froze, but somebody froze. Can you make that a little bit bigger, Greg? It's really tiny. There you go. All right, so why don't you guys sort of start off some conversation on this? Tell us what we're looking at. Tell us what you're looking for from us, and we'll have some discussion.
Sure. Thank you for the time this evening. Appreciate it. My name is Greg Roy, and I'm here in my capacity with Dillison Roy as a consultant to the skate park tonight. So we kind of waited until your commission had finished up with the discussions with WOLA to really start our efforts in earnest. And so, you know, when I was putting together, honestly, this was precipitated by me putting together a package for a geotechnical engineer who's going to do some prepare a geotechnical report for us that the skate park designing people need to start their work. And so I was putting a plan together, and I said, oh boy, it's in a slightly different location, which wouldn't be the end of the world were it not for a few things that I indicated in my email, but I'll summarize here. So you can see the plan here. So all the stuff in black and white, grayscale, the grayscale rectangle is the plan that we had presented to you folks several months back, where you gave us the thumbs up for the location and size. 8,000 square feet. So that's that gray rectangle at the upper portion of the screen. So what I did was I took the image that the alternative one image that your commission had preferred from WOLA, and I overlaid that on this map, and I traced the location of the skate park as they were shown it on their master plan, and that is what's shown in the jelly bean shape, red jelly bean shape in the middle of the screen. So a couple things to point out. So shifting that in that location would have a couple of impacts. Some of them are surmountable, I think, and some of them are a little bit harder to work through. But I'll go from easiest to hardest, at least my perception of what's easiest to hardest. The first is that it will definitely impact pretty much all of the playground equipment. That rectangular box that you can see right here is the swing set. I don't show the jungle gyms, but I think those are over here. The slides are probably like this. There's a jungle gym, I think, over there, if my memory serves me correctly. Those things are, I would imagine, not that difficult to move if we found, even if we were to move them, from here to here, I don't know that would be that difficult to do. But that's issue number one. Issue number two, and a slightly larger issue, is that this straight line that you see going right across like this through the red hatched area is the underground electric feed to the park. which goes to a transformer, which is right in, I guess it's left field of the existing softball location. There's a transformer, pad mounted transformer right here.
Greg, I guess I'm super confused now by this map. So,
Karen, the orientation is twisted, that's why.
okay, all right.
Upper left is Mass Ave.
Yeah, right. Mass Ave's like out here. And
Okay,
then come in this way. This is the main entrance in. Sorry, I should have orientated you to the
that's
site.
okay. That's
This is the
okay.
main entrance. This is the main entrance in. This is this gravel driveway right here that I'm following is the existing gravel driveway through the woods. And then
Okay.
down here, this triangular area is the T-ball field. And then this fence right here is the outfield fence of the softball field.
Okay.
And the hatched area in here is the existing parking area that exists today. Sorry about that.
That's
So-
okay. I was losing it. So thanks.
So the line here is the underground line. It would go through as you can see, it goes through the skate park, which there's a couple that we don't want to do that for a few reasons. One is it's going to cost a lot of money to move it. Second of all, well, two things to say, I guess, is the first thing to say is you wouldn't want to put a skate park over the power line because it's a future maintenance problem, and honestly, the power company may not allow you to do it anyway. So then that says, that would mean we'd have to move it or avoid it, and our hope was to avoid it. So we can talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but that's issue number 2. And issue number 3 is the existing, this location would, I'll say wipe out the existing gravel driveway connection that exists through the park. So through the woods there. So again, this gravel hatched area that I'm showing you is the location of the gravel access driveway. And there really isn't a way that I could see to sneak it around the park. If we were to kind of massage the size of the park or something, it really, if we were to put the park in this location, you'd really be cutting off that entrance, that access point. So given those 3 issues, we thought it's particularly the last one, because like I said, the first 2, I think the swings could, in the jungle gym playground equipment could probably be relocated. I think that although I'm showing the jelly bean shape over the electric line, I think that with some planning on our part, and kind of just tweaking the shape of the park slightly, we could probably make the park to avoid that electric line. But the bigger issue is that I think anyway is you'd realize a loss of circulation on the property that I'm just not sure how valuable that connection is to the park. And we thought that it would be important enough. Well, it was important enough to come before you because it's not shown on the location that you had originally, that we had shown originally on our plan. So we wanted to come back and show it to you anyway. And then just to talk through and flush out those issues. So the other thing I did just at the request of Chris today, I actually did the converse here. So if this is easier for you to see,
It is. Thank you.
I've got the red rectangle is where you had previously approved it.
Yep.
And you can see that in proximity, with the WOLA on top of the WOLA site plan. This doesn't show you the location of the gravel driveway, but it's something like this. Excuse me, it's something like, I think it comes in here like this and goes like that.
So,
So that's it. That's,
Well, what my question is, Greg, what is that thank you for showing this. What is your question tonight? What is that we need to discuss and approve disapprove or? what-
So
what is-
I guess I just wanted to make sure that we, so if we'd gotten the Willow plan and it was, okay, if it's a different shape, that's one thing, but if it's in the same location, we would have just moved forward because it was already, the skate park, we had already come before you and you had already given us your blessing to sort of move forward in that location. But given that it's so much different, and I'm not even saying it's so much different, but it's
a
different
location
enough.
change.
It's a location change. We wanted to come before you, and especially because if we were to put the park in this location, it would definitely cut off circulation that exists today. And we, believe that the commission needs to know that and approve that before we were to proceed with,
So
with,
can
In
we
that,
discuss
in that final plan that you just had up previous to this one, there is no circulation and I knew that looking at the plan. There is no road around there in the final design. And that was understood as far as I knew.
Yeah, but I think what he's saying, Dave, is until this plan is done, if they go in first, they're taking away that
the
they'd be
Existing use.
the existing road that circulates out.
Yeah.
So,
for the interim of when.
But there's no
between-
access, in the final plan, there's no access to any of that area in there. None at all, from either side. There's no rotation through there. There's no access to it by vehicle.
correct. Okay.
That's correct, Dave. I guess what I was concerned about is, let's just talk about worst case scenario that, well, best case scenario from skate parks crew, but worst case maybe from the parks. So worst case scenario would be, from your perspective, I think, would be we build in the next 12, we're done in 12 months or 15 months. And we don't build the master plan park for 5 years. So then you have 4 years of, sort of having to live with no connection there. And I don't know how big of a deal that is or not. It may, I'm not sure the history on why that was built. So it was a big enough issue that we didn't want to get down the road of spending design dollars only to come back with a final design to sort of keep you guys in the loop and then have you say, oh, well, we can't build a skate park and cut off the excess. So we wanted to just flush out the issue before we,
So I guess
we-
my question on that, and obviously a discussion can ensue on this, is that access road, that dirt road, it's literally a dirt road that I think just came about over time. I don't have the history of it. If this master plan ends up being 5 years down the road and you guys are looking to go in the next 12 months, couldn't just a temporary dirt road be just shifted? Like, couldn't it go, like when I'm looking at that, the screen that's up right now, couldn't it? Couldn't it just, where it comes up into the dirt parking lot now, up by the parking spots up on the top right of the diagram, couldn't it just cut across there and exit out?
it could.
This at the bottom here on the right side of your jelly bean, that's where current parking is right now, correct?
Yep.
This is all parking and then that's all dirt. So why
So-
couldn't it go up? Why couldn't it go up and skirt around where the playground was? I guess I wouldn't have put that on the toughest problem to solve list. I would have probably put that at number 2, where the electrical might be more of an issue, but I think it's surmountable because it's a dirt road and it's not paved. And again, I think it was just a road that just sort of came about. I'm not sure it was necessarily.
If I can jump in here real quick, I don't know if it was so much that these are insurmountable, but these are just issues that need to be acknowledged
Yeah.
and effectively talked through.
Like I was looking for the email that I initially sent to your board. I think that we have a way forward in this location. Much like what Karen just said, we could certainly relocate that road. I think we can work around the location of the electric line, and we can certainly relocate playground equipment. That was those 3 things. Well, relocation of things in the park was something that we hadn't discussed before.
Yeah,
Because
so-
location,
I'll
They-
touch on the, and totally get what you're saying. I'll touch on the playground a little bit and, eh, so years ago, that playground was actually slated to be removed. The question in my head is if that playground's not gonna be there forever, it will hopefully be replaced with something that's, up, ADA compliant, up to code, whatever. I think if we start moving pieces of playground equipment, whether we move it or you move it or anybody moves it, I think it now needs to be brought up to compliance. I'm not sold on keeping that playground equipment there, even in the meantime. I look at that equipment and cringe because it's, again, antiquated and out of code. Needs to be inspected. There doesn't have the ground cover that it's supposed to have. So I'm looking at that, again, just my opinion. If pieces of it need to be removed, if the whole thing needs to be removed in order to move forward with the skate park, I'm actually okay with that. The power line, obviously is a different story. If you guys can work around that and figure out how to do it in the most cost-effective way, which would probably be avoiding it. I don't know how much leeway on each side you need to give that or clearance in order to be able to, in order to be able to build near it, like, I don't know if there's a.
well,
minimum-
yeah, we can reach out to Unitil on that.
Why does it run that way, Greg? Like, that doesn't even run near any of our.
It's a straight
electrical
shot, it's a straight shot from the drop pole, which
Okay.
is over off the screen, but sort of right on the edge of the driveway. And then
Okay.
it just, I don't know why they chose that location for the transformer, but but they did, and they just ran almost a direct, you can see it when we flagged it to do the soil testing. We called the dig safe in, and it just direct shot from the pole right to the transformer. I don't know the history on the location of the pad mounted transformer, but That's
The
what-
other thing, Greg, that you might touch on with Unitil is whether or not that's really due for an upgrade. If that service is due for an upgrade, because I think it's been in there for quite a while, then it's a moot point to relocate it a little
Yeah.
bit. Or bring it in when along the drive, well, whatever, you need it out of the way sooner if we're gonna move it. But if that is due for an upgrade, then that could be, factored into it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're not far enough along in the schematic design of the park to know whether or not we're actually going to need an upgrade just based on what's going to end up in the park with possible parking lot lighting and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
As I say, I don't see the electric service as a serious thing either. The playground, Karen, I think you're right. As much as I see 12 kids every time I go there on the weekends. There's a minimum of 12 kids playing on those on that playground, and their parents are there with them. And one of the reasons a couple of parents have said that they bring their kids to that playground is that those pieces of equipment don't exist anywhere else anymore. But I get your point. And if we touch one, let's take them all out, and maybe I don't know. The Parks Commission could consider, if the town's okay, even though it's the town property, that we run a raffle or an auction for those items to generate some revenue, either for the skate park or for the park itself.
Anna, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I do. So I was gonna have a question, which, I'm gonna take Dave's previous comment as the answer to my question, which was, is the playground equipment currently being used? How much
Okay.
use is getting? And according to Dave, is getting quite a bit of use.
Definitely.
In principle, I don't like, reducing the use of parks, of any kind of park. And it's not, so I'm not so I'm not keen on that. I'm not keen on removing the equipment and not setting up somewhere else within the park, within Marshall Park, because it's getting used. We are literally talking about reducing use. Like, that's not what we are here for. And, you know, and in terms of being compliant or not, I mean, every piece of equipment, as soon as you install it, you know, probably it's kind of like you know, buying a brand new car. As soon as you drive it off the lot, it's worth less. As soon as you buy it, you know, a new compliance or a new regulation might come up and may not be compliant anymore, but it's getting used. And I don't think we should
It's the
simply-
moving it, Anna. It's the
I'm
moving.
sorry?
It's the moving it. I believe once we move it, we are then required to bring it to compliance. If we were to leave it where it is right now, I believe there's probably still a liability to the town, but I think
There's
that
always
it-
liability to the town
Right,
on parts,
right.
period.
So I think that it sort of grandfathers us in if we leave it. I think once we move it, that's where the issue comes in.
I hear you. I'm not disagreeing with that. And I don't have, what I'm saying is, the bar for me to remove a use of a park, it's high, especially something, a piece of equipment that's getting used. That's what
So-
I'm saying.
Yep.
I don't, this is an item on discussion, and I'm sharing my thoughts. If
No,
this is a park that's a set of equipment that's being used, we as Parks Commission, I think, should have a high bar for reducing use. And as we're talking about for the next 5 years, until we can install one that's up to date. So we should consider that, and we should deliberate on that, and we shouldn't just simply say, I'm okay removing that. That's what I'm asking us to do.
So here's, I'm gonna add this to the discussion, just sort of giving some backing to what I said about moving it. And this is coming from playgroundsafety.org, which is the website that we use for Wallace Park quite often when that playground was being designed and gone in. Outdoor play areas for children ages 2 or older should be given equal opportunity to play. Playground equipment and facilities constructed or altered on or after March 15th, 2012 must comply with the 2010 ADA standards for accessible design. And part of that goes with the it's the ground covering. There's like a strict ground covering thing. So if we move those, I believe that would be a form of altering it. So we would be then forced to bring it to at least ADA standards, if not completely up to code. And I'm not sure any of those pieces of equipment at this point would pass, maybe the swings,
Right.
but the slide definitely doesn't.
So we get you know, I don't want this discussion, like, I'd like us to find a place where we can try to maintain use. Like, all I care is reducing use in parks. We don't have a lot of parks. We don't have a lot of playgrounds in town. I am against simply saying, if it comes down, I'm okay coming down. I'm not okay reducing use. So I'm asking us to deliberate and figure out what is that we can do. Because, you know, the logical thing, if one were to say, is this, and I don't think we should go there, because you know, it sounds like they are ready to break ground over the next 12 months and have things done. But, you know, part of our agenda tonight is try to decide on phasing in, and I believe part of our discussion will be how to, you know, minimize disruption to the current use until we have funding. I think that needs to be the deliberation here. So I'm saying, you know, I hear what you read, Karen, but what else can we do in order to move forward with skate park on the location that is part of our master plan and maintain the use that we have? So
Greg,
What can we do?
is there space to slide, you know, the rectangular piece Yeah, you and I talked at the track thing earlier. So the rectangular shape is roughly what you guys were talking about. I think you were saying.
Yeah.
Is that rectangular shape that can slide south, and and for the orientation of the drawing, south of the power line, at an angle,
Yeah.
southwest.
Yeah,
Uh,
it may take a slightly different, it may be a little bit longer rectangle, Chris, but I think that's basically what we would have, what we'd have in mind.
because I mean, a sidewalk's going to be a side. If you go to the new drawing, a sidewalk's going to be a sidewalk, and if it goes one way
Yeah.
or the other around, and if the skate park slid, down to where your hand is, that your icon is a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah,
further, and the sidewalk moved a little bit,
You can move the
it went around
sidewalk.
the other side, it's a sidewalk. I'm not worried about it.
You go
I'm
back to
not
the-
concerned about losing the dirt road in there right now at all.
Okay.
I respect what Anna's talking, Anna, excuse me. I respect what Anna's talking about. With regards to the playground equipment. I'm kind of mixed on it. I get what we're saying. I'm hoping we're not 5 years down the line before we're improving the playground equipment at Marshall Park. I think it's used because it's there. I don't know. I haven't had discussions with folks that are over there. I don't know if folks are driving and seeking out the playground equipment at Marshall Park. The swings were broken the last time I was there a little bit. It's if they weren't there, I don't know that we're fielding complaints that they're not there. And maybe I'm totally off on that. But I don't know that we're going to get an email or a phone call saying, you guys are
It's
missing
being replaced with something that would probably get even more, if that playground came out, what would be going in its place if the playground didn't go back in is something that would be used by probably more than a dozen kids on a weekend.
correct.
If I could, when I said that we're, upwards to a dozen kids using it, I wasn't indicating that I was against removing them. I was just making a statement as to what the present situation is. This project is going to cause disruptions, whether it be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. If it turns out to be 5 years, then we didn't work hard enough to get the funding in place urgently enough to make this stretch out 5 years. We're going to have to give up things for each phase of this project, and the time period that particular use is given up is going to vary depending on which phase of this project we're in. I don't see where we should be redoing what we just paid good money to have designed unless we have absolutely compelling reason to do so. Everything fits into the project where it's located now. Moving that the skate park south of that underground wire is going to push us closer to the wetlands. We're already inside the 100-foot buffer with the way it's designed now. I don't know where that puts us if we move that rectangle below that line. And the other thing is that it will push you into the T-ball field. You're already right up against the fence of the T-ball field with a peanut shape. So as far as I'm concerned, we leave the design alone and we work out the logistics to make the design work. And if that means removing the playground until the new one's built, so be it. The underground wire, I think, location, even just in that stretch, is not all that expensive. But again, I'm not sure, Unitil may have another take on that. And that's pretty much my concerns on it. I think we should leave the base design alone and
I don't think
work out the
anybody-
logistics around it.
I don't,
So just very clear, I nowhere I suggested to change the design. I definitely hope and wish that we have a higher bar for taking a playground and be it. Like that is frightening language for the carers of playgrounds around town. Like, if you tell me we have a plan that we can, we phase everything just as we have planning to do today, and say, this is our timeline for, let's try to do phase one, which includes this and that, and we are going to give up use of one or the other. Like, there are ways to do this in a way that's planned and thought out, and we can own it to our decisions. Because we can tell people where we are, but just saying we're gonna take, playground equipment down and so it be it, without an answer to when do we have any plans, which right now we have none, to, I don't think we are acting as good stewards to parks to use that kind of language. And I don't think you feel that way, Dave. It's just the language that you used there was a bit harsh for us who are a group that are, the cares of parks. So all I'm saying is, I'm not asking to change the design, because the design is very tight. Walla did a great job accommodating a lot of requests. But, within the language of removing this playground and reinstalling I think what Chris was suggesting is sliding the equipment, right? Is that what you're,
You can't move the equipment without upgrading it. You cannot.
No, we can't, not the equipment, not the playground equipment. I was wondering if the skate park's thinking of kind of a rectangular shape, I think. So if there was a way to slide that rectangular shape at an angle between the power line and the T-ball field a little bit to the left of the design here,
okay.
So that we're not moving the playground, I think that's fine. I'll add though, I think it's really important, like in the short term, yes, might we lose a playground? Yes, but I think it's really important as a park commission that we need to think big picture. Like, we're not thinking about today and tomorrow. I think as a commission, we need to be thinking about 2 years, 3 years, 5, 10 years down the line, and what is Marshall Park going to be and what's it going to look like? And I think on the short term, not saying kick a player under the curb, but I think it's going to be important for us to look at the longer picture. And if in the short term that means that there's not a metal slide there from 1967, and Lord knows when the monkey bars went in, I think that's a short-term sacrifice for a
I
greater
agree with
gain in the
that.
long term.
I agree with that, Chris. What I'm saying is, if that is our decision, we should deliberate and have plans to what else. It's not simply take one piece, isolate this as one thing. Let's have an answer to, as we look into the phasing of the project, where will this fit? And it could be that we say, rebuilding the playground is 3 years from now. And we have that answer. See, if residents, and it's not about how many emails we get or how many calls we get, it's about, us knowing that we have that answer. That is planning. We are saying we will take down the playground now. We will approve the playground to be removed now for the building of the park or skate park. Okay. And we envision this to be part of phase 2, which, depending on funding, it can be within the 2 to 3 years. That's what I'm saying, if that is our position. But it's not simply taking it down without having the answer of where will this fit next? I think taking it down without having that answer.
But we have an answer, because we know that when we start working on the master plan of it, we know where the playground's going. It's not like we don't know. We know that. What we don't know is how many years down the road that's going to be. But we know
we're adding a playground. The phases might change. We might say today, if we want to say for the sake of feeling better about ourselves today and say, we're okay taking the playground down temporarily, and phase 2 of our master plan is gonna be adding a playground back in. That's all well and good, but we've already talked about the fact that we really don't know what our phases are gonna be, because we don't know when this is actually gonna happen. So if we have funding for this and, you know, phase 1 was to adjust the baseball and softball field, but the funding comes in February, then we're not going with phase 1. We're going to be going to phase 2 or 3 instead of phase 1, because we don't want to disrupt the baseball and softball field during their season. We want to try and minimize that impact. So I I don't know. Again,
So-
it's a short-term deal for the long-term,
I'm
you
all
know,
for that. I
the
don't think we-
long-term gain, and we know we're adding a playground. We know that something is coming.
It's the
You know,
kids.
so I'd be curious if there was a way to slide that rectangle somewhere in there. If there is, and we don't have to move the playground, great. If there isn't, and the playground has to move, I think that's something we have to strongly consider. The other question I guess I would have for Greg too would be, that wire is there. How close to that wire can you guys come before, if something had to happen with that wire in the grand scheme of things, that power line, that there's concern about damage to the skate park? I mean, the skate park's going to be there first. I don't know what's entailed with moving a power line, an underground power line, and disruption to, the skate park if we're moving that. Because I mean, based on our master plan, there's not gonna be a power line that's gonna run through there. In the long term, that power line runs straight into the playground that will be there, basically, I think, in our newer drawing.
Yeah, that's what I was just few minutes ago, I was thinking about that too. The transformer, it's hard to tell, but it's probably gonna be,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the transformer is roughly where it says play, I think. I mean,
or maybe
right now it's not going to be there in a few years. So like, how close to that can you get before there's concern about something happening to the structure of a playground
Yeah,
when that's moved or whatever? I don't know.
so we will vet that with Unitil directly. Because we'll need to know the answer to that before we go. I guess before we reached out to them on that kind of thing, that kind of discussion, we just wanted to be sure this is where we were gonna go. Because if it was if the answer was something, we wouldn't go down the road with Unitil.
So this,
I also, go ahead,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
does Pat Pat, do you have anything to add on this? I don't want to exclude you. I
No,
see
no,
it.
no, I'm kind of just taking it in right now and trying to formulate my opinion. That makes sense. Personally, I'm not concerned about the electrical. 2 reasons. They bury electrical in concrete all the time. So worst case scenario, you just dig it deeper, put something over it, and just pour the concrete over it. They do it all the time. With having something go wrong, if something went wrong, they just pull new wires. So if something went wrong underneath there, which 9 times out of 10 it doesn't, it's more the transformer than anything underground. And if we decide to put it back where it was, now we've just redesigned the whole park. Like we said, we've been talking, Lola did a great job doing this, and now we go to put it back where we originally said. I'm definitely against that. Putting it where it should be with the whole scheme of the moving forward with Marshall Park is the best way to do it, regardless of trying to put my thought together there. But for right now, yeah, that's go
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you. So I think the question in front of us is whether or not, so we took a vote a few months ago, whatever it was, giving permission for them to start the process in a different location. I believe the process that we need to be doing now is basically rescinding that and re-voting on the WOLA location. If Greg and Anthony are comfortable with the WOLA location, knowing that there is a power line going through it, I think that keeps us on the same track that WOLA has us on in the design of, in their preliminary design work, or whatever you want to call it. I understand what Anna's saying about the playgrounds. I actually think, and I tried to look real quick, I actually think a previous commission had voted to have that playground removed. So the fact that it's still there that shouldn't surprise me, but it was a concern, years ago, that we were willing to forego that playground at that location because of safety concerns. So I would have been on the commission at that time. So I don't necessarily have a problem, because I don't think it's losing access to that park. I think it would be putting in a skate park that would obviously be bringing in users to that park. They wouldn't necessarily get the same experience as having a slide and a swing from the 60s. But, I'm in agreement with whoever said that, if there's a short-term loss for a long-term gain, I'm okay with that. So I do think the question on the table is, or the decision that we need to make as a commission, is whether or not we rescind the previous vote and put in a vote approving this location, and letting them go ahead with their next step of their process, which is what, the testing again, Greg? I feel like all you guys have done is test ground.
Yeah, we were hoping not to have to do this, but the skate park designers were pretty adamant that they want a geotechnical engineer to give a report. So we have to do a little more testing.
You haven't had a geotechnical done yet, correct?
No.
Do you need me to get a degree in that for you, or you?
That'd be outstanding. Yeah,
Um,
outstanding.
Okay,
do that.
so by,
Can I say-
yeah,
Can I say one thing?
yeah.
As you folks were talking, I think maybe something what Karen said and someone else said, resonated with me. We're looking to put $250,000 investment into the park, which is going to be nice, and it's going to be a nice upgrade. So, one way to look at this is, yeah, you are losing in a temporary basis, you'll be losing the functionality of the playground equipment. But the substitution that you're getting is a pretty significant. It'd be hard to say that it was not equivalent, at least, if not an upgrade. I get that it's a different functionality, but it's also functionality that doesn't exist today, at least in the scale that we're looking to build it. So, there's perhaps a way that the commission could view that. And it's not to say that it's gone. There's a master plan location for a really nice upgraded playground that you folks approved on the WOLA plan. So I just want to say that, just to remind everybody that we're looking to build a really nice park that is going to provide a real nice benefit. And we think it's a good benefit.
I agree.
Karen, if I may,
Yeah,
I'd like to make a motion that the commission vote this evening to rescind the approval of the location that we approved for the skate park on, if you could fill the date in for me.
I can probably do it right now too.
Okay, well, it doesn't, whatever. On that date, rescind that vote and vote this evening to support and recommend the location that is in the present accepted master plan created by WOLA.
So I believe it was an
Oh.
11/22/21 meeting.
Okay.
So we have that motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is that Pat? All right. Do we have any discussion on that motion?
The only discussion I would make would be if it made if there was, if it made sense in there, if it fit between this, outside the power line, if that was easier for the skate park group. If it fit in the general vicinity that it is on the master plan, but outside the power line, if that became an issue for them, kind of deal.
The one thing is, I want to be, when we had that vote, Karen, we were specific with language because, and this is aside from, the other discussions, which was to have a set there, but it's not to break ground.
I can read you what the motion was.
Okay,
Let's see.
so I just want us to reflect that we want to make the same motion just in a different location, but the scope of the motion is not changing.
Yep, so we had, the motion that was in November of 21 was grant space to Lunenburg Skate Park for the purpose of up to 8,000 square foot skate park in the location as documented the plans that were presented tonight for the purpose of a preliminary design plan. That was the language in our last vote, and that's the one we'd be rescinding.
So can we rescind that and maybe we make a new maybe make a new motion using the language of where the skate park is shown on the location on the master plan? So that I just want to make sure the scope hasn't changed because we have other things that it's not in discussion today and doesn't need to be in discussion.
Yeah, Dave, you're the one who had made the motion, so do you want to rescind the motion from 11:22 that I just read and then put the motion, the new motion would be something along the lines of grant space to Lunenburg Skate Park for the purpose of an up to 8,000 square foot skate park in the location as documented in the master plan for the purpose of a preliminary design plan and geotechnical thermal whatever testing. Although that probably goes in the planning process.
I honestly see no reason for it to be two votes. I worded it to cover both.
Yeah,
Well, how
Both,
did you word it? Can you repeat that? Because I don't think it covered.
I believe the
scope.
same thing. It was one vote. He said it's
One
kind of
vote
like,
to do both things.
Okay, can you repeat your motion, Dave?
Probably not, unless you can hit instant replay on the tape.
you can't.
Basically, all I did was I moved to rescind the vote of that November vote to that gave the skate park the authorization to use the space that they had indicated on the design that we discussed that evening, and relocate it to the location as shown on the Wohler master plan for Marshall Park, which has been already been accepted by the Parks Commission. It does exactly what you wanted to do in one motion, and I'm not willing to withdraw my motion at this point.
No, that's fine.
No,
That's fine.
I just, your motion, you are making two motions in one, which is okay, but your new motion does not limit the scope to design.
What, Anna, you can correct me if I'm wrong. What she is trying to prevent, and I actually will say that I most likely agree with this, is she doesn't want to be granting permission to break ground in this motion because there's other pieces that need to be put into place in order for them to break ground and meet our expectations, which, around, say, making sure there's enough money and funding and all that other stuff. So I think
Right.
that's what Anna's trying to say, is that she would like this motion, and we can amend the motion, Anna, if you want to amend it, that's fine. Or I say that's fine, you're welcome to put an amendment forward, and then see if it gets seconded, to include phrasing that limits the amount of work that's going to be done to the design planning phase
I
versus.
remember when we had that motion, Karen, we went back and forth trying to get the right language on it. Do you have that? I will be happy to amend Dave's motion so we don't have to reword something that's already been crafted. Maybe you, Karen, since you have the minutes in front of you, maybe you can make that
don't-
amendment to Dave's motion so that the scope stays the same.
I don't have the minutes in front of me. I
have
have,
Oh,
a
you just
thought.
read the motion.
well, I meant, I read what I put into our master motions document.
Oh, okay, so can you maybe amend Dave's, I don't have that document, motion to include that so that we can quickly vote on this?
Just, I have a thought.
Yes, good.
Just if Dave would accept it, we certainly would. We certainly agree with everything that Anna is saying. We have no intention of breaking ground before all the boxes are checked, of which we know there are several that need to be done. So this is really a design effort. Why don't you just say, if Dave would accept an amendment like this, just hold Dave's motion and just add the words, something like conditioned on the approval is conditioned to only allow design efforts at this time.
You know, it'd be really simple if you just let me amend it to say that the location has changed, but the conditions set in November carried to the new location. I mean, that's all it needs to do.
I'll
Just
second.
substitute out the plan, just substitute out the plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Remember.
if Pat will second that as my, amended motion from the person that brought it forward, then we're ready to vote. I
Yep.
think you guys are on board with that.
Yes.
This get to be like town meeting.
We're good at that. Pat, are you good with that change to his motion?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, so that's what we have in front of us. It obviously needs to be a roll call vote. I don't think we need any-
Are we,
Yeah,
and this is what this is what the skate park is looking for tonight, correct? I mean, I just want to make sure that we're, okay,
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure you were good with basically all we wanted tonight was to make sure you were good with the Jelly Bean location from the WOLA plan.
Can we
That's all
call
we
it
need.
the Jelly
Okay.
Bean Skate Park?
Whatever
that-
you'd like. Madam
That's super
Chairperson.
cute. Anthony's saying no.
whatever you like.
And don't ever call me that again. Thank God you will never be able to call me that again after this meeting. Okay.
I'll find a way. All right.
No, thank you. Okay, so we're ready to vote on this. So this is voting on Dave's motion with the amendment that had been seconded by Pat. So let's do a quick roll call on that. Dave, Pat,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye,
Anna,
Anna,
are you
Aye.
there?
Oh, didn't I say aye?
We just didn't hear you. Your vote's an aye? Okay.
Yeah,
And it's an aye from myself. So Greg and Anthony, just let us know if there's anything else we need to do on our side. But this obviously just passed what you just presented this evening. So if you need
Thank-
something from us, let us know.
We will. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for giving up
And,
another hour of your evening to deal with this again. I'm hoping we can
No problem.
get it off the ground. I'm gonna go buy myself a skateboard, so,
Good.
yes, so. All
All right,
right,
everybody. Thank you
done
very
with
much.
that. Thank you guys so much.
hi guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, now we're moving into our next agenda item, which is Marshall Park. And if you ever thought I thought we would be discussing letter B under Marshall Park, you would have been mistaken. We're gonna start with A, since it's comes before B, and that's graffiti. So this is probably more of an informative type thing anyway. As you all saw, when Chris had shared some photos to the group, we had a graffiti incident down at Marshall Park. I believe it was all done at the same time. Dave was kind enough to go down and check to see if there had been any graffiti in the underground, because if there was, he might have had a good lead on who might have done it, but he said there wasn't anything new down there. So this was just graffiti that was, people think they're a star. I don't even know how to, it's some of this, I don't know why kids do this. If you're listening, please stop tagging things. It just ruins what the taxpayers have put a lot of time and effort into. Rob, this may be putting you on the spot, but do you know if the graffiti down there was taken care of, or what's the status right now?
It was obviously recognized that it is down there. Nothing has changed due to as a rec department, don't have paint. I was willing to do something about it, but the DPW director is aware of it, and he is working out something in terms of working with the schools, because there's a repeated pattern across both the parks and the schools, either getting the authorities involved and finding either a constructive way to figure out who this person is. And other than that, that's all the information I got.
Can you make sure that Chief Gamble is aware that we had a graffiti incident down there?
Absolutely.
You know, just sometimes it just changes where they're looking when they go down for their.
Karen, I tried to send it to him when we were informed, and that
Okay.
was during the email changeovers,
Okay.
and he never got my email.
Okay. Which is strange, by the way, because most companies, when they change emails, their old emails work for a period of time before they
Yeah,
get
go to
changed over.
they get forwarded to
I'm
the.
not quite sure why we couldn't have done that, but it is. what-
Also, if I could make one comment about this situation, at least at the park, I haven't been to the schools or the library to see how visible the graffiti is there. The offensive graffiti is in one location, and you would have to go looking for it to see it.
Yep.
So it isn't like it's in the face of kids, using the park or using the playground or anything like that. And it's going to be as simple as a coat of paint over it, and it's going to be done. It's all on concrete walls, block walls. The little bit of tagging on the dugouts, that's a little bit of off-white trim paint with a 99-cent paintbrush, and that's gone. So, the effects on Marshall Park are not that huge. And again, I can't speak to the school property.
It's not, it's just more of a nuisance situation.
Right.
Time has to be spent on something that doesn't need to be done. I mean, if we have a legitimate graffiti artist out there that really wants to do some tagging of some stuff, come and talk to us. We might be able to hook you up with our, one of our.
We could add a mural at Marshall Park.
Yeah, well, I mean, we even have, a concrete snack shack over at Wallace Park that we've had some people paint on before. So, if you're really interested and you're listening, come and talk to us, because we can probably hook you up so that you're not just destroying stuff to make work, or I shouldn't say destroying, because some of it was actually, it's whoever's doing it has some talent, because I couldn't do that. But, stop making us use the extra time that we don't have in our day to rectify this type of situation. So.
See,
Does
unfortunately, we're not in, an inner city situation. Whereas I think if you were to check any large city, anywhere in the country, I think you would find that they actually do have programs like this, because they have large brick walls or concrete walls that, they offer to the kids, because you're right, they're talented. It's incredible what they can do. And it's with a can of spray paint. It's not a paintbrush.
Right. So, all right. Does anybody have any questions on the graffiti before we move to public urination, literally? All right. Next one's quite an interesting one. So the Little League has their portable facilities down at Marshall. It is my understanding that they have been kind enough to have some sort of agreement with the high school for their players to use it. Apparently, the folks using the 90-foot diamond, the players, don't want to go to the portables, so they are going in the woods. And I don't mean just one player here and there. I mean, they get off a bus and they go to the woods, and they're dropping their pants and peeing in the woods. This is a concern raised. Chris had mentioned it a few weeks ago. I actually did have a conversation via email with our chief of police, just wanting to see what are the laws around this, and there actually are laws around it that would cover public urination. His recommendation was, if it's become a concern down at any of our parks, that it starts with our rec director sending a reminder to the user groups, in this case specifically the user groups of most likely the 90-foot. I don't think it would be our softball or our Powell Field kids doing it. I think it's primarily the 90-foot diamond, just saying, you know, please do not, you know, go into the woods to urinate. Please use the facilities or whatever that are being provided or giving you, you know, you have access to through the Little League. He said if it escalates from there, then he can get involved and have a discussion with those user groups. So, Chris, does that sound something that seems like a reasonable solution to this?
I think that's a good start for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it'd be a reminder of the Phillies for the summer and so forth. But I don't know what I don't know if they're part of that user agreement with Little League as well, but yeah, I mean, it's a good start.
And-
There should be a reminder. I just don't want it to become a bigger issue than it needs to be.
Right. You know, the thing that I reminded myself as I was thinking about this, you know, last week was that, you know, any user group that is down using those fields on a longer term basis, such as the Phillies, the high school, they're all welcome to talk to us about bringing in a portable facility for their usage. You know, if the Phillies feel that you know, having a portable over on that side of the field for their usage, and if that's something they want to provide for their groups, then have a conversation with us in the same way that, you know, we want Little League to have a conversation with us and, you know, put forth where they'd want to put it. And, you know, we can work with them to try to get it approved by both the commission and, you know, direct them to the Board of Health for that approval. You know, there really is no reason at this point that I think that anybody should be going into the woods to relieve themselves. You know, I think that we're better than that at this point. So,
And you don't want to hear from me because you know I don't agree with any of what's been said in the last 20 minutes.
well, I think Dave, but I don't even think it's that you.
We have $66,000 sitting in an account that the users paid in to use these fields. For a measly $4,000 to $5,000, we could have had portable toilets at all of these locations, and we wouldn't have any of these issues. But no, we're not willing to do that.
Well, we're willing
That's
to
my
put it.
position, and it will never change. So
I
don't
understand
try to
that.
change my mind.
Let's move.
We are working to put in permanent facilities, so, you know, we're at least going in that direction of having something there.
Better to win the same time.
But at the same time, Dave, I'm not sure that necessarily is going to relieve anything or solve anything, because if they pull into that parking lot on that far side and our bathrooms are down located on the map, it looks like the WOLA plan would be very similar to where the current porta potties are. We could be in the same boat, that nobody wants to walk over to the, you know, permanent facilities. So
Well, in my plan, I had 2 portable toilets on Chestnut Street side, 3 in the middle at the softball field for Marshall.
You
They
know,
wouldn't
Dave,
have
so
to go 500 feet all the way across the field to get
I,
to it.
listen.
Anyway, let's drop this.
Well, Dave,
No,
again,
I'm
you
done.
cannot bring stuff up and then throw the hot potato in other
Well,
people's
you're
lap and
welcome.
say,
You're welcome to
okay, so
discuss
I'm
it.
going
But
to
I'm done.
comment. I'm going to comment on your comment.
Yep.
You know, Dave, your plan could have been very solid. You brought it. It was not something that I think that the commission knew you were working on independently, which is great. I love when people take upon themselves to get things done. But you know what? Maybe next season, we want to bring this on to the commission earlier on and get everyone's support and see if we can have everybody buy in. Now let's just move on. Here's the thing. I agree with Karen. I'm not sure. You know, everyone, like, this is behavior issue. This is behavior of people not, you know, bring in and bring out their trash. It's really just behavior. It's bad behavior of going to urinate in the woods when there's facilities in the park, period. This is just a behavior issue. So, which it doesn't have to do with your plan. I'm hoping that next season, let's look at your plan and see if we can, you know, implement something. But right now, there's bad behavior. And that's my take. Thank you.
So if, Rob, if you could initiate a discussion with Joe Ruth from the Phillies. I don't necessarily think they're good. I don't want you going accusing anybody of, of his people, but just, say that this was a, topic that had come up during our meeting. Here's just a reminder, and again, if you need to offer to them the option of putting in a portable, that's fine. That's an option for anybody out there that wants it. Okay.
I'll remind all the users of the 90-foot diamond that,
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Does anybody else have anything on that? I'm hoping we can move on. All right. Master planning, the next step phases and selecting a meeting date with the select board. So let's start with the select board part. I did reach out to them, excuse me, and had a conversation with Michael Ray. He threw some dates out to me. Those dates, I wish I had, hold on, let me get my email open. One of them was like the first Tuesday of July. Let's see. And that,
July
yep, so July 5th with I believe he said it would be the full select board would be there. The other option he gave us, I want to say it was the 12th of July, but one member was from the select board wasn't going to be there. Does anybody have a preference as to what date they would prefer to meet with the select board? And this would be to present to them, number one, the overall plan of the master plan that we decided on, the preferred plan. Many of them haven't seen it yet. To go forward with, if we decide on some phases tonight, to be able to share those with them and to start opening up conversations on how we're funding this. And what the steps are to get that funding. So that would be the purpose of that select board meeting, with the joint select board meeting.
And I'll add that I think, like on to the point of the select board meeting, I think there is a little bit of selling on our part that it needs to happen to the select board and the town manager about how important this project is.
Mhm.
I mean, and yesterday, in yesterday's meeting for the select board, Tom Alonso said, and I'm happy to talk with Tom if he hears this meeting in person too. I haven't had the chance yet, but he mentioned that he wants to bring back the School Street project and to be funded, because it was not funded in town meeting like he wanted. And I did speak at town meeting about the School Street project and our project, both park projects happening at the same time. I'm not sure the town, if we could necessarily get funding for both. So I think when I say there is a little bit of selling on that meeting, is that we need to show to select board and the people watching their meeting how big of a project it is and the impact that it will have on our community to have our master plan that we worked really diligently to develop for Marshall Park. So that selling point I think would be very important. So I would like to, for that meeting, to maybe even invite other user groups to join us there and maybe speak to the value of what this new plan could bring to them. And I think that would be crucial on that, because the School Street project was already defeated, and not because necessarily I thought it was a bad plan. I think the town just said, I don't think it's the right time right now to make a plan for a park right there, right now, with so many buildings in the town center still to be decide what to be used. That was my concern. I don't know why 60% of or more of the people voted against, but that was the reason I voted against, or I voted for the amended.
Yep. Yeah.
So I that's what I wish for that meeting with the select board. Having said that, the 5th,
Let me give you the correct dates before you say that, Anna.
Okay.
I think I was off. So, he said we can comfortably schedule this for July 5th with a full board or July 19th with 4 members. August 2nd would also work. I'd really like to avoid July 5th. I think that's too, for at least for me in my schedule. My husband's off that week, so I don't want to be dictated by a meeting.
I agree with you.
I can say that the 20th is if we stick with the 3rd Wednesday of the month, the 20th is supposed to be our meeting. So, do we want to do 2 meetings back to back, the 19th and then the 20th? Or would we be better going with August 2nd?
The 20th is when they only have 4 members there. Is that accurate?
Correct. Heather Soroka will not be in attendance that evening.
I'm okay with August 2nd. Or 2.
I'm fine with, at this point, Dave, Chris, Pat, what's
Yeah,
your?
August 2nd's fine. It gives us some time to
Works.
talk some more.
I'm probably gonna be shifted over to afternoon shifts, so don't expect me to be there in person. I don't expect that's gonna be able to happen.
Okay.
I do caution though, and I just throw this out as a precaution. I think better be very careful about the user groups and maybe have a conversation with them before the meeting and make sure that they're on board, because I have conversations every time I walk through Marshall Park with different users, and they're all across the board. And, they're not as enthusiastic as we are about this plan. They're not totally negative about it, but they're not going to wave banners and yell and scream and wave the flag. We need to do this. I don't believe. So be careful.
Thank you.
All right, Pat, would you be okay with August 2nd, Pat?
Yeah, August 2nd works. The 5th I'm working.
Okay,
And so the other 2 dates work for me. So,
so my only concern is doing 2 back-to-back meetings, the 19th and the 20th. It just
Yep.
ends up being,
but
We also don't have another meeting between now and then to maybe discuss further and if we need a strategy, right?
yeah, yep,
So
we would.
The 20th would give us that meeting.
Okay, so let's go with
Actually-
August 2nd, and I can, I'm gonna do this right now, and I don't mean to take up 30 seconds of your time. I'm just gonna send it over to them.
27, 26, 25. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Am I in that 30 seconds, Chris? Are we good?
Yeah, it was quick. Under. Yeah, about time
okay.
back.
Their
So-
meetings are usually at 7, right?
Yeah, their meetings
Yes.
usually at 7. So when I just sent something back to him, I said that we would like August 2nd, and I asked him to let us know what time, because they'll post it as a, it'll have to be posted as a joint meeting since we'll have a quorum and they'll have a quorum. So I have to put a time on mine. Hopefully it's earlier in the evening so that we can start closer to the time that they give us versus having to sit through a bunch of stuff. So, but I'll let everybody know what he comes back to me with on that.
Before we move on, we can move on. I need a quick break.
Yeah,
I'll be
please
right
go,
back.
go. So as we talk about phases of this, let me see if I can pull up.
I've got the WOLA phase up already.
Do you want to share it, Dave, or you want me to pull it up and you can phase it and share, or you can share it? Doesn't matter.
Hold on.
I literally have it right here.
If you have it, go ahead, because I'd have to pull Zoom back up on the other screen
Yeah.
and then bring it up.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Did that pull up for everybody?
Yep.
All right, so,
All the way to the last one.
right here.
Oh,
So this is how WOLA has it phased with the parking, the front section, meaning Mass Ave section, the parking, the area where the skate park is, the concession stands, the playgrounds, and then the basketball, pickleball courts. And I would contend that that could actually be pulled out and probably made its own phase if we needed to, if we weren't quite ready to, if we weren't quite ready to relocate the T-ball field yet. So maybe we could say that's phase one, but could also be phase 1 and 1B. Phase 2 would be the fields. I do believe that those need to be done together. I don't believe it would be an easy task to divide them out because the land needs to be graded. And and this isn't in any order. This is how they've grouped them. The third would be the wetlands area with the pond. No, not with the pond, right, Dave? No, not with the pond.
The platform, the
Yeah,
platform on the back end of the pond, but not the picnic area.
yep. I had to move all you pretty faces. You were blocking number 4. So WOLA is recommending that if we do it in phases, if we can't do it all at one time, that it be broken out something like this. Does anybody have a strong feeling on what they think should be the first phase that we complete? If we were putting together in an ideal world, other than doing 100% of the project at one time, what would be the first area you would want to see completed? Is the
I think
question.
it 100% depends on what funds are available when.
Okay,
I
Yeah.
also think
Again, I
that-
I said it earlier, but I mean, if we have funds available to do phase 2, but it's February, we're not going to do phase 2, I don't think. I mean, that's a total disruption to sports and so forth. You know,
No,
so
I agree. It all depends on the time of the year of when we get.
yeah,
all right, so here's a lesson, guys. Ready for the lesson?
Here we go.
Let's talk about capital funding lesson. Capital funding, if we put any piece of this project through as a capital project request, and I don't know if we will or we won't, that's the conversation on funding needs to come from, we need to get more information from Heather on that. But capital plan money, as well as any operating budget money, becomes available on July 1, and it needs to be expended or encumbered within that fiscal year. Did I say that right, Dave?
Can I correct one thing? Capital money can carry on through multiple
Yeah.
years.
Yep. So like, for example, we have capital money for the survey project at this park. That's not available to us until July 1st. It doesn't mean we have to use it in July. If for some reason we wanted to wait and do it next June, we could wait and do it next June. If it means we need to encumber the money into the following year, we can certainly do that as well. So I think when we talk about availability of funds, I don't know of any funding source that would say to us, you have to use it the day that we issue it to you. So I don't think that there would be any money that would be coming our way in February that we didn't know about, that we couldn't wait and use, in July, or June. That's just my thought. That's sort of my.
No, I understand what you're saying. I totally have that.
Yeah.
But it's more of if we get more money over less money, where you want to go with it. That's more of what I was getting at. If we can do that, I agree that baseball fields have to be done at the same time. Absolutely.
So I think that the question that would be coming from town manager is, what do you want? What phase does the park commission want to start with? So I know what kind of funding we need to come up with. I think without giving her a starting point, I think it's going to be difficult for her to just randomly start pulling money out of a hat. It's possible that she could come to us and say, the only money I could get for you this year is $250,000. What can you do with it? That's always going to be a possibility. I think the bigger likelihood is that if we give her a starting point and say to her, we would like to start with, just throwing out an example, phase 1, and we still need, I need to go back with WOLA, or we need to figure out some way to figure out what the cost of each phase would be. I know I had sent something to Dave, and you guys all have it in your folder, or in previous emails. WOLA had sent something with a cost breakdown, and we can tease out some of it, some of the costs, but we can't tease out other costs because it's lumped together as an entire project. So I think if we were to say to town manager, we think the most important part to start with is going to be phase number 1, and that cost is $1 million. That's the price tag that she's going to run with. And then I think if she comes back to us and says, I can't secure $1 million, I could get $500,000, please look at your phases again and see which one fits. Then I think we consider changing where we start to fit the budgetary constraints that we're being faced with.
Well, and I was just missing here for a few minutes, so I don't know if this was discussed. But when we did requested money for this master plan, this is, I don't know if you recall, Karen, but Rob Oliver said, there is like phase, in terms of design and engineering, there's phase 1, 2, and 3, and the money that we had and the way it was bid, we were going into 1.5. We never really completed to 2, which 2 would be the design, the engineering cost for for really to say, this is how much it would cost, going to the detail level of like what is in the playground, what is in the pavilion. And that is the money that select board wanted for the School Street, the $200,000. They wanted that $200,000 for engineering, which is that's the level of expense we're talking about.
It is.
So-
And the one thing I can say to that, Anna, is that School Street is a project that's going to have to, in my opinion, is if that project moves forward as a park, that would be done in most likely its entirety and not in phases, which that's what makes us a little bit different, is the size of our property would allow
Right.
us to do it in phases.
So where I was getting with that is I'm not sure Wola giving us a lot more of a bigger breakdown than what they have is really going to be that helpful to us. I think we need to decide on where we want to go first, and then request the engineering cost for that phase, because only then we'll then have the final cost that we have. So I think if we say, let's go, we would like to first see phase 1 develop, because that will actually have an impact on current use, the way the fields are there. It will bring other uses, like we could elaborate on a lot of methods of phase 1. So I think our first request to town manager would be, we'd like to phase 1, but we need engineering money for that. And that is when we'll have the final cost for that phase 1. So the ask at that point is not very large, and she might be able to do that. So I think that's how we would move it forward.
Hey, Dave.
Yep.
You had a conversation with Catherine from WOLA. What was were you able to take anything away from it in terms of next phases? I know the last time Chris and I talked to her, which was back late April, early May. One of the next phases that she had mentioned was we obviously need the property survey, but was wetlands flagging. I don't know exactly. Did we decide that was the terminology she used, wetlands
Yeah,
flagging?
that's correct terminology. I had the conversation
Yes.
with her actually at noontime today. And I have a phone conference set up with Matt Morrow for tomorrow.
Okay,
So I believe the wetlands flagging will get taken care of.
okay,
I don't know if it's going to be 100%, but it's going to be the most critical points done right, possibly next Monday,
okay.
that we need done right away, and possibly all of the flagging. The other thing is that exactly what Anna just said, excuse me, we're really not going to be, and Catherine backed both of us up on this. is that we're really not going to have a true number for any one of these phases until it goes through the schematic design process. Because that's where you get down to the nitty gritty and find out if you need a power upgrade to the underground and all that kind of stuff, and how much it costs to put in the pickleball, basketball, whatever.
Can the schematic design be done in phases?
It can be done in, pieces, kind of like the way they have this laid out, yes. It as
Cost
phasing-
effective, though? Like,
phasing
I mean,
also costs a little more
Yeah.
than doing the whole project, but unless somebody comes across with a bond bill for $5 million to allow us to do this all at once, we're going to have to phase it.
I have a
that-
general
yeah.
question about the phases that are here. So obviously we're talking about, well, 4 highlights the whole thing, which is obviously not the intent, but the phase 4 line goes around the entire park.
Actually, Chris, to correct you on that, if you look a little closer, I'm not sure how it's showing up on your screen, but I've got it on a TV screen.
It's a light green, Chris.
There's a light green line around a very small area right in that corner.
Do you see
Oh, there it is.
There.
Yep, never mind. Just
Yep.
kidding. Okay.
Okay.
it?
So the other question I have, a bigger question. So if we just decided and said, all things considered, we say phase 1 is what we feel is most important. And in my mind, just on a very surface level, that's what I feel is most important. We're already at this point, there's going to be a skate park there. So from an aesthetic standpoint of completing that area of the park as you enter, that's done, right? But obviously, when we get into the baseball, softball field, into the wetlands on the other side, phase 3, there's going to be some earth movement one way or the other, earth coming in, earth coming out. If we do phase 1, all of that has to happen through the Chestnut side, because you're not going to start driving significant vehicles across softball and 90-foot diamond from the Mass Ave side and coming into the park at that point, because you're going to have parking structures in place. You're going to have a pavilion in place, playground in place. There's a skate park there. So which, just something to consider, like where, and is that the proper way to bring in or move earth one way or the other? Or is the Mass Ave side the better side to do that at?
Chris, that access off of Chestnut Street is going to be totally disturbed, regraded, and so on. So honestly,
It's
as
just a
they have
narrow
it
street.
out here, there's no reason why you can't bring all the materials and heavy equipment you need in that way.
It's
Yeah,
just a very, very narrow street.
Oh, I know it is, but again, when you have construction projects like this, you are tied to the accesses you have. There's nothing in the law that says that they can't come in that way for construction purposes. There's no bridges that limit weights, so on and so forth. It's just that, public safety probably will want to set down some rules that protects the public, which would be common anyway in a project like this.
Yeah.
But I honestly am not concerned about the earth materials having to come in through Chestnut Street to reconfigure the park.
All right, just came to my mind. That's fine.
Yeah,
I
no, and that's
make-
it's good.
Just
I
as we're,
think
as we're
all
talking
need
it through, I
balance.
just want to make sure that's, and
Yeah,
then
and
what's the impact? What
honestly-
needs to happen in phase 3? Are there things that need to happen in phase 3 that would be impacted by phase 1 or 2 being completed already?
I don't even know how to get my page back open, so hold on a second. You got.
Honestly, my personal feeling is that phase 3 really ought to be done ahead of the fields. And from a dollar point of view, depending on what you end up with for funding sources, I think phase 3 would be doable funding wise earlier than phase two, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
the
I
other thing is-
envision
The
trail
other thing
equipment's
is
gotta
you
come
don't
in
have the
there.
limitation, you don't have the limitation of disrupting ball seasons
Right.
with the wetland project. That's an unused area at this point, so it doesn't impact that, with the exception of minimal access from Chestnut Street to get the materials in there.
Right, 3 and 4, kind of anytime projects kind of deal.
Right.
I agree with that. So how do you guys want to approach it with, I guess, I mean, obviously my original thought was like putting phases in order, but if that doesn't make sense, that's fine. Do we want to present this to, the overall plan to the select board, and then, sort of have that conversation about funding and sort of explain where we are on funding and the, if we had this, we'd do this or whatever. I mean, to sort of get some more idea on them so that we have a ballpark idea of where we should be starting, because maybe, there's some funds that, are coming into town because of COVID, the ARPA funds. Maybe some of that will get sent in our direction, and that might be a starting point. I mean, I don't know. And I also don't know what that can be used for. So I could be talking out of turn on that.
So,
3 is an upsell on that side too, of the ARPA funds, in terms of being outside and movement and whatnot, which I think is part of the ARPA deal, which phase 3, we're talking about
Well-
trails and,
I mean,
things of that nature. Plus it's
I-
getting it out of the way and being
yeah,
done ahead of the ball fields.
So I mean, my recommendation, if I were to make one, is I don't think we need to wait for a meeting with the select board to to send an email to the town manager, because I think there are money available now. The sooner she knows this, the better it is. Money goes quickly. I think it's very, like, as Dave agreed with me, I think we need to get the schematic design engineering process done for any of the phases of here. I think phase 1 and 3 are the logical starting points for it. The way phase 3 and 4, I think those will not disrupt current use of the park, of the ball fields. The way they had the walks done, it was besides, like, there's a small stone wall there, and that walk, it's inside of that. So my suggestion would be to put a request to the town manager to get us funding for the schematic design, engineering, whatever it is, the proper wording for that, for phase 1, 3, and 4. Because that, I think, site work is a big part of this project. And I think that one is the one that will probably take more. It probably would be the last, because we need to get that done in order to get the month, to get the right number. And by asking 1, 3, and 4, she might come back to us and say, I can do 1 and 4, or I think we can probably do 1 and 3. So this is a little bit of the selling side of it. I recently was telling my husband the same thing. He was working on a project, and he wanted to present the cheapest to the most expensive option to, it was a selling. And I said, you just present the most expensive one. They will walk you. They will tell you they cannot give you all that money. I think we need to ask for the for funding for the schematic design for 1, 3, and 4, and see what she comes back to give us, because that is
Start
just
it
the
with-
first.
Can we literally say, I would like to say to her make it clear that if we, in an ideal situation, we would be asking for 100% of this project being done all at once. And although that's pie in the sky, I think that's, if there is even a sliver of a chance that that's possible, I think it's worth an ask.
Okay, I think.
And that's my
well,
opinion on it anyway. Will she say yes? Probably not,
well,
but
but then you'd leave it to her to prioritize the phases.
well,
that is
No,
the-
we present two scenarios. We present,
Right.
I mean, I would
Okay.
agree. I would ask for the pie in the sky
Okay,
and she says no. And then but you know, we have, and I would leave it at that. Let her say no and then present plan B. Because it's like, if you tell a kid, you know, I mean, if you tell a kid, you know, you can have, you know, it's a bad analogy, I guess. You know, if you tell someone you can have all of this, and if they say no, or you know, or if you say you have all of this, or you can have part of this, and it's preferable to have part of it, you're just going to go to the part of it, right? So,
so, and I'm
go
sort
with
of,
all of it, and then take the no and say, all right, here's plan B.
you know, and I'm sort of looking at it too. So when all of the funding came in for this project, I think that we as a, I mean, I think I'm speaking for the majority of us. We were surprised that it came in where it did because it was lower than what we thought it was going to be. And if you compare it to School Street, you know, yes, it's higher, but you know, it's not out of reach higher. And if they're gonna move, if they wanted to move forward with the schematic design or whatever the next process is for that entire piece of property, I don't think it would be unfair of us to be requesting the same. You know, that's just sort of my thought. And
I think, I agree. I'm okay with that. I think we can ask, I think the schematic design, and that we only gonna get funding from the state, you know, we only gonna get funding and funds and grants from state or anywhere else if we have that hard number to ask.
Right.
So we need to have that. So she needs to, you know, hopefully find a way for us to get funded for that phase.
Yeah.
Because we are not going to get money from anywhere. Like, you know, we can't call our state reps, who never calls us back. His name is Dan Santa, so just you all know. And say, hey, we need funding for parking for Marshall Park. And he will say, how much? We don't have that number. Like, right?
right.
So we
And
need
by the
that.
way, I'm gonna correct you on that. We actually currently, in the current setup, we actually have two reps because we have one that represents District B and we have one
Oh,
that
the
does.
tiny little fraction, the one that's.
Well,
yeah.
it's still, you know, but you know, it's still a
that's
piece of
good.
it. And if he wants to fight for, you know, that little section.
No, I have a separate question. So, okay, so yes, Karen, we agree with you. Let's send a message to the town manager requesting funds for the schematic design for the whole project so that we know how to move forward. And then we can properly,
How do we get that number? Dave?
You have to hire a company like Wola. I'd like to insert something. I totally agree that we go after a proposal or a project to get us to schematic design so we have a solid number for the entire project. The individual pieces of the project is actually the way it's going to come out. And in the meantime, because we have some funds left over, I've been working in the background. First of all, the wetland flagging is going to save us a lot of dollars. That's being covered by Matt Morrow. So that will be at no cost to the town. Well, as a town employee is basically what he's doing it under, even though he's retired. He promised to do it before he retired and things just got busy, but he is, to my knowledge, I'll know better tomorrow, is willing to do it. Or at least the most important sections that we need done quickly. Second of all, I have had a very brief conversation with Catherine, again, as part of that overall phone call today, and explained to her, because they had come back with, well, you know, you got to have, we were asking for the cost to take us to schematic design on the Marshall Pond picnic area only, just that very small piece. And they came back with, well, you know, you need flagging done. Well, I talked to it today and I said, I've got the flagging 99% sure that it's covered. Can you give us a number or a quote to bring us to schematic design? Because we can potentially, if it's within the dollar amount that we have left over from the master plan, we can expand the scope of that contract to have them bring us to schematic design with that piece. It is definitely not enough money to do the whole park, but it would bring that piece to schematic design. And of the phases and the money we're spending at that park, it's small money to get that. I'm going back to calling it a pocket park, getting that pocket park completed. If we were able to come up with first of all, get the design in a true number. I think that number is going to be fairly small. $20,000 to $30,000 is what I'm thinking, even though it doesn't show that way on the master plan breakdown. But we could get that funded very easily through a number of different sources and potentially have that done within a year.
Yep. All right, so I don't want to keep, it's already 9 o'clock and we still have some other stuff we got to do. So go back to town manager, ask for a full funding for schematic design of the entire park,
Yes.
see what she says.
I mean, yeah, that's what they want to spend $200,000 on the, and here's the other thing too, by the way, if she doesn't, you know, she doesn't think that she can do that, you know, tell her we are happy to put a article in town meeting. Do we know what is the ceiling for capital design, capital planning budget items?
There isn't a ceiling.
There's no ceiling, there's a bottom, there's no
There's a
ceiling.
bottom, but there's no ceiling.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so how do they decide what becomes an independent article in town meeting or not?
So an independent article in town meeting most likely is because so that project, the School Street project, where it was an independent article, it wasn't going through the capital planning process. So that
Right.
wasn't going to be covered under the capital plan.
I
Yeah.
hear that, but what makes it to be a capital plan item or a separate town meeting article?
Although it's always possible for an item to, potentially fall, and I'll use Wallace Playground. That project ended up being a warrant article submitted by a resident. It was possible if we had all of our ducks in a row at the time, that we could have put that project in under a capital plan request.
Mhm.
So that is one that ended up going, another way. There isn't always a rhyme or reason. There are projects that will meet the qualifications of a capital project. I don't know if you guys changed it recently, Dave, if FinCom changed it, but at one point it was like a shelf life or it needed to have a longevity of at least, 7 or 10 years, had to have a minimum amount. It needed to be something that couldn't be covered in the operating budget.
And one of the other criteria is setting up something new. In other words, buying a whole new set of equipment to start something that doesn't exist. And then from then on, the expenditures and replacement are supposed to be taken care of within the budget.
Operating budget.
Yeah, and the lower limit was increased to $20,000 this past fiscal year. And if anybody wants to read that, it's in the fiscal policies of the Board of Selectmen. That's where you can find that information on capital planning.
Thank you.
So, okay, so do we need a vote on that or can we just agree to that?
I think we can just agree to it.
Okay. Can I go back, like, Dave, can I just ask a couple questions about the pocket park?
Yep.
So what will it take for WOLA or for us to be able to use that money? I know you're talking and meeting, but like, what will it take for us to do that?
To use the remainder of the money that we have
Yeah.
from,
Towards that pocket park?
Karen, I can take that on, because
Yeah,
I had a
please do. I
conversation
know.
with the town manager already. Because it's continued engineering costs, the way the article was worded for the master plan of Marshall Park, this would just be an extension of the master plan planning. So any money left in that project could be used to take this, like this piece here, to schematic design. And it does not have to go back out to
Good.
be rebid or anything like that. We just expand the scope of the original contract with WOLA.
So,
That's one of the routes.
so did she say that to do the schematic design for that, phase 4 would be, does she have high level cost of that?
No. See, and that's the problem. And I asked Catherine if she could try to, with her team, try to pull together a number that she felt that their team would need to charge to bring that piece to schematic design. Once we get that from them, then it's in Heather's hands and ours to convince her that, we do have enough money, if in fact we do, left over, and just to write the extended scope and have Wola agree to it, and then we move forward
Okay.
with it.
Okay, so it looks like Dave has a path for it, which is great.
Yeah, I'm always trying, because if you leave money sitting on the table for too long, it finds
you
another
take it
use.
back. It goes away. We don't want that. Excuse me.
Karen.
Karen, the other item in regards to what I asked to have added on, I'd ask that we pass over it tonight.
The septic?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so hold on. I haven't gotten there. I haven't gotten to E. That comes after D.
Well,
When we-
when you
I
get
got you.
when you
Okay.
get to E, I ask that we pass over.
That's fine. All right. So the next, I've had a long week if you guys haven't figured it out, and I've been very frustrated, and my frustration may come out on this next one. We have a capital item that was approved at town meeting, and the funding is available on July 1 for a survey of Marshall Park. I don't know if any of you have the qualifications to know exactly what needs to be written in whatever to get this survey done. I certainly don't. My imaginary civil engineering degree only goes so far. So this is where my frustration is. I emailed assistant town manager and town manager a couple of months ago, thinking this had to go out to bid the same way that WOLA went out to bid. I was told that it didn't. It could just go out as a request for quotes. Then I was asked if we got the quotes. I don't know how many groups actually solicit their own quotes. I don't know. And then I was asked if we knew the scope of the work we wanted to have done there. And other than saying to them, I just want a survey of Marshall Park and know where our property lines are, that's where my knowledge base ends. So I don't know the best way forward on this, other than to keep hounding them. I did bring it
Well,
up.
let's
to-
not hound them.
Well,
I gotta
hound them.
say, I see a good side to it. They're like giving us, like, I'm gonna look at the bright side of things.
Hounding them, I mean, asking repeatedly for information, which I hate to do because then I feel like you become a broken record.
Well,
I brought it to Bill, what's his name? Bill Bernard, the new DPW director, and asked if this is something that he could help with. And he did say that he could. So maybe now that he's on board, that's where we start.
well, I mean, if she asked us to do that, like, you have great resources in town, AKA Greg Roy, who I think could do that. Like,
But there's a conflict of interest there because he's going to want to bid on it.
Correct.
I've already been that route.
well, I
Just
thought,
let you know.
hold on, they said we don't need to bid.
Well,
Well,
even if he quotes, he can't write he can't write the specs.
Oh,
I'll be
I
back
did
in a minute.
this. Hold on. So Karen, what do you need is someone to outline the scope of the survey?
let me get the actual wording. Hold on a second.
Oh, all right, whatever you need.
Well, I
Because
mean, I can write something too, but then the problem is that if we don't, if it's not accurate information, if the terminology is not right, then you end up with quotes and work being done that doesn't meet our
But the
needs.
survey is a little more like, the survey is a very specialized service. It's versus like us quoting a project like we did with Marshall Park. It is the survey. It's probably, it has standards and what is the outcome for it? Like, I like, this one is a limited scope and specialized scope. And I think that that's easy. And I can take on writing something.
Right, so this is what was put forth. We do not need an RFP for this. We would only need a written description of the work to be done and to solicit 3 written quotes from companies that do survey work. Is there something specific the commission is looking to have included? Please let me know.
Yeah.
And then you say that, Anna, you say that. My concern is that we're not going to have the correct terminology and we're going to be putting out a request for quotes thinking it's going to cover everything that we need and it's not.
But
That's
the
all
Isn't that
that-
survey-
something that Bill is familiar with? I mean,
I
it sounds like
think
that. I think
so.
you're right. I think that's the right starting point. Like we go to him. Or do we talk to like a Greg? Like, I mean, can Greg give us the, I don't know if that's a conflict of interest or not. Like, can Greg give us the right terminology, what we're requesting?
There's probably somebody
I
that we
to
could find.
offer myself to work on getting.
You
like,
go, I'm fine with,
Forward me that email.
I'm not gonna do it right this second, but I will forward you a bunch because there was, then I have, I tried to do some follow-up. The the capital plan request was actually put forward by the DPW. I don't think any of us have ever, other than Dave, I don't think any of us have ever seen it. So, I mean, that's also a starting point. We should probably get our hands on that and look to see how it was worded in that. But yeah, I don't care who runs with it. It just needs to get some momentum because that money is available on July 1st. It's not going to, it's not
We
going to
need that.
hinder
Forward
and
me-
get in the way of any of our summer activities at that park. So let's just get it done if we can.
Okay.
So
I think that one I can take on, like, delivering a
That's-
description of the service that we need.
that's, I'm fine. And if you need
Because
help, you
I'm
need help,
confident that that is a very specialized service that will have limited scope and pretty standard to what is that they do.
We have funds available as well. Still under what we've already done. I mean, is it something, I mean, I don't know if WOLA would just give us the answer or,
So
if it's an additional fee to WOLA or whatever to
Right.
give us the answer of what we need. I'd rather not spend money on that if we had to, if the DPW director can give us the right guidance. But I mean, it's that option is there as well, I assume.
Good one, Chris.
So-
The DPW director is not going to be able to bring us to schematic design, but he should be able to come up with specifications for
Survey.
what we want to have come out of the survey. Yes,
Yeah.
I've been very concerned about that since the day I proposed with, I believe it was Rob, getting that in as a capital project. And if you remember, 3 or 4 months ago, we talked about this and it was decided it was too early to start the process. Well, here we are and we're still not in the process. So Anna, I wish you luck on getting this move forward. I do suggest you have a conversation with town manager as to where that process stands right now, because I have information that sounds like somebody has already reached out for quotes. But based on what scope, I don't know.
So, and that was, so that's been like where my frustration has come in on this, because I did, I pushed back on it. I'm like, you know, in all of my years of being on this commission, we've never had to solicit our own quotes. WOLA was the deepest we got in selecting somebody, because there's, you know, there's laws around, you know, this quotes, and some stuff you have to actually go with the lowest bidder, and, you know, there's all different kinds of things. So we've never done any of that. So I sort of pushed back on that. So I'm wondering if maybe somebody on that end was like, oh, well, maybe we should be doing that and not the Parks Commission, especially where it was put forward by the DPW. So
Upon Dave's
what-
request.
whatever you, right. Whatever you can dig up in movement you can get on this,
Okay.
that would be
Can
awesome.
you forward me the emails? And
yeah.
Dave, can I ask you, you said you heard there's been some movement on that. Can I ask you to be specific so I know? I'm
Oh,
not-
it was part of my conversation with Catherine today. I got the impression that they were already working on a quote for the survey, which
Oh.
I had no idea, you know,
Oh,
what
yeah,
they were working
yeah.
off of as a scope.
So Chris and I can actually, we can probably go back to our April conversation that we had with Catherine, and but here's the thing, and this is what I don't think Catherine understands. We did talk to her about what the next steps needed to be and what could we pay for with the money that was left over. I thought we had made it clear to her that we also had a capital request in. At the time, it was just a request for the survey. It has since been approved. So I did go back to her a couple of weeks ago and say, FYI, we did get a capital plan approved that includes the survey, an additional $25,000 for survey of Marshall Park. So I don't know, but I'd be interested to see what they came back with, because I think,
Okay, so
company
that,
like-
that might be where she's, okay, that's good.
and I
Okay.
think a company like that who does this kind of stuff for a living, we can look at what she has, and whether we go with her or whether, you know, however it works out, that would be telling of what we need to have done, I think, because this is what they do, and they are involved in this process with us. So I'm interested to see, whoever gets that first, please share, because I'm interested to see. All right, so Anna, you follow up on that.
Okay, but you're gonna, don't forget to forward me the email.
I won't, if you don't get them to me by the morning, just remind me. Dave, we'll skip over septic sewer. And I'm sort of doing so hesitantly, but I'm gonna throw this out anyway, because this is what I was gonna throw out. My mind, the way my mind works is usually around money and how the funds work. I would love to figure out how we as a commission can figure out what it would cost sewer wise. We have an idea of what it's going to cost septic wise, because we just had that study done thanks to the generosity of the Board of Health. I would like to know what the sewer, you know, what it would cost for that, just so we can compare apples and oranges. Although I do think the Board of Health offer is,
I'm sorry, wasn't the Board of Health money supposed to fix the, like, wasn't that project gonna move forward?
so we haven't finalized a vote on that, on a decision. So we, as a
Can we
commission,
Well,
finalize it?
we're into it now, Karen, so we're gonna
We
have to stay on.
Well,
right.
Karen brought it up. Don't
Yeah,
blame
no, I
me,
get it.
Dave.
You get it. The
Don't
chair
blame
has
me
that
this
right.
one.
well, I was sort of throwing it out there in hopes that somebody would be like, oh yeah, I can figure out what the cost is for septic.
It's in the quote from WOLA.
The septic is?
No, the sewer.
The sewer is in, oh, okay. So the cost to run the sewer from the bathhouse to, or whatever, to the roads in there?
Yes.
Oh, now you tell me. Okay, we can ignore this conversation and pretend we didn't have it. And I'll just go
That
back.
goes
to the
really well
survey.
in the minutes.
My,
Mhm.
my defense of still going with the septic is that a couple of things. Number one, it's still set aside outside of the master plan that WOLA has put together. If you look on the phase sheet there, that space is still set aside for that. Number two, that system can be in the ground this summer. They are also looking to expend the entire $105,000, which means they'll go as far as they can to buy us fixtures, and whatever for a toilet building. I personally think that if we're going to phase it this early, we go back to what my original thought was, and that is that we put the septic system in, we put a 2-seat toilet facility up on that plateau, fed into that system. Then for the future build where the other toilets are going to be, there needs to be a much bigger discussion about snack shacks and full service shacks and stuff like that before we break ground for that piece. And if ultimately we end up with a facility that does not need grease traps and all the things that would have to be run out on a sewer line, then we can still tie in that toilet facility to the septic system with a pump system. And we'll have 2 locations with toilets, one close to Chestnut Street and one in the middle of the park.
I don't have I don't think that it's a terrible thing to have septic and sewer running into the same location if we needed that in the future. I like the fact that sewer is an option for us if we ever need it. I think that the Board of Health offer for the septic, I think it's extremely generous. I think that the townsfolk might think we're crazy if we were to turn something like that down. And I do think it meets, an immediate need. I'm game with whatever. I was just throwing it out there. I guess I didn't realize that there was something in the WOLA breakdown. Maybe my brain's fried about the septic.
And again, it's hard to pull together what the actual cost is because I think it's lumped in with that building structure. But there is a number in there that says sewer or something in that dollar breakdown. I'd have to pull it all up again now. The other thing is that the Board of Health asked me on almost a weekly basis, have we made a decision? Have we made a decision?
Yeah. And
I'd really like to be able to say, yes, we want to go forward as soon as we can.
So what's stopping us from just making that motion now?
ourselves.
Dave, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that the Parks Commission request that or commit to installing the septic system offered by the Board of Health funding with a, I'm not sure how to word I was going to say limited, but I'm thinking probably just a 2 toilet facility in that same general area. And I think that'll do it.
I second that.
All right, I have to ask the question. Hopefully there's no discussion, but any discussion on that?
The only, it's not really just, the only question I have is gonna be what efforts do we need to put in to make sure that we're placing it exactly in the spot on that hill that's not gonna disrupt
WOLA has it in
the
their
WOLA plan.
Chris. WOLA
No,
has-
just the septic's up there on the plan, but do we mean from a more detailed engineering standpoint, we want to
Well-
make sure we're not disrupting that pathway that's going to go around. I think there was some grading on that hill that they were talking about with that pathway coming around the back of the 90-foot diamond there.
So,
That we just need to be mindful of, that's all. But I love I'm supportive of
so can I
going forward,
amend-
but make sure that we,
Can I
take that
amend
into account.
Dave's a motion to say his last 2 words was 2 toilet seats to match the location that is shown in our master plan?
Sure.
Okay,
Because it's right where it has to be anyway for the
Right.
septic system.
All right, so Dave's motion is to whatever he just said. I have to go back on the video at this point to read it.
right,
As long as and we're adding into it that it's going in the location provided on the master plan from
Right.
WOLA. Okay, that's fine. All
Now,
right.
just one other thing, and again, this is, I don't know how to put this. A question that came up. in one of my conversations in the Ritter building recently. So who's going to put this out to bid?
Well, it would be their money.
I think we have, so
Yeah,
it's
it's
their
their,
money.
it's their money, but it's
tricky,
whoever
it's
owns the
because it's
property.
our property, and it's the same thing we had when Greg went in front of Conservation Commission. We as a commission voted for me to sign those documents. So it's probably gonna be, I would say probably the Park Commission's gonna end up having to put it out to bid, but let's have a conversation with George. Maybe Andrea will just volunteer to do it all.
Yeah, well, just be aware that the contract and the payment for the engineering for this system were signed off by Heather and George.
Yep, that I know.
So just so everybody's aware, one being the procurement officer for the owner of the property, and the other being the funding source.
Yep. I did know that. So,
And those price estimates they gave us, the line item that's there for site water and sewer is $30,000, just an FYI. So I don't believe that would probably be the total.
no, because it would have to include from going from the
Yeah.
building.
It just says, it says site water and sewer under utilities. and
Yeah.
It says $30,000.
I knew there was a number in there, but like I said, it's really difficult to break things out when you
Yeah.
start to do little pieces of the project.
Yep, exactly. All right, so let's vote this. Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
I,
Anna?
I,
Pat?
Aye.
And it's an aye from myself. Dave, you want to take care of notifying Board of Health?
I will. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
So much, sir. Aren't you
all
glad we
right, Dave, we
Well,
can
yeah,
start
yeah.
that.
I
Dave was
didn't
gonna
think we were
pass this
ready to,
over.
work
The
through it.
quickest discussion we had all night.
I crossed it out on my agenda. Now I'm trying to figure out how to uncross it. So we actually talked about it. All right.
We only got 4 more hours to go, right?
Well, no, I'm gonna hopefully plow through this, and if there's one item that I think we could hold if we needed to. All right, Town Beach, Rob just jumped on. Rob, first of all, did we have, at our last meeting, I had mentioned that I thought there was another applicant coming in. Did that come to fruition?
From what I've seen, I didn't get anything else.
Okay,
But, yeah, nothing.
so you didn't get any application from Peter Hennessy?
Peter Hennessy has not crossed my desk.
All right, great.
Oh, his mom, Karen.
Jared Bowser, if you have heard otherwise, please contact me so we can sort this out, because it may not have left the desk of someone else. I don't even know how to use Zoom anymore. What is going on? You guys are just like a little tiny box. There we are. Okay. Hopefully nobody's sitting here trying to get in, because I don't even know where my controls are. Oy vey, what a mess. Oh, there we go. Okay, all right, everyone.
Karen, I had a meeting Monday night and I totally ignored 6 people through the whole meeting.
A couple weeks ago, I joined Conservation Commission to listen to one topic, not realizing I wasn't on mute. So, I'm not having a good run with Zoom. All right, let's get through this. So that one we're taking off. What do you have for updates on porta potties, gates, opening, passes? Throw everything out you got for updates at us, Rob.
Okay,
Awesome.
so as the timeline goes, the gate was delayed multiple times. It was placed in and done yesterday.
Okay,
It's now up and secure. I confirmed with the porta potties, they will be delivered tomorrow morning, so we will have porta potties. We are on schedule with the employees. Everybody's on schedule to open this Saturday. Tickets have been on sale for the past 2 weeks. Ran into a little hiccup for a short period of time, but we've managed to get back on track. All passes are purchasable online, and we can take purchases face to face at the beach as well.
okay.
Yeah.
You have, you got Easy Up tents, so you have some sort of awning thing. Is that something that we need assistance in putting up?
They're only 10-foot easy up tents. They're relatively easy, hence the name. I'm going to have the employees pretty much all hands on deck Saturday, and we'll get a better understanding of the operations, the running operations, in terms of who and what they'll be doing, and we'll figure out if it's better to find a stationary point to either latch them to the fence or, just take down the awning or set them up every day.
Okay. And you got umbrellas to put onto the lifeguard stands. Thank you.
Correct.
Much
We said
appreciated.
we cash at the beach too. We're good to take cash as well.
Yes, we're going to be able to process cash, credit. It's
Okay.
all legal tender. No
Okay.
word of Bitcoin yet.
All right, perfect on that. I saw that swimming lessons were up.
Yes.
Just so you know, that actually doing it the way you put it up, which is perfectly fine. That's sort of the way we did it way back when we used to do it on paper, is that you'd go to the beach, you'd pick whether or not you wanted to do session 1 or session 2 or both. The beach director kept a list, and then what she did was she looked at that list and broke everybody out and said, okay, we need 1 level 1 swim lesson. We need 3 classes of level 3 swim lessons. And then she actually, I don't know how you're going to do it once you get all the names, but then she posted it. So people would go down to the beach like a couple of days and find out if their lesson was at 10 or 10:30 or 11. Anna, you remember that whole business?
My kids actually always refuse to take swim lessons.
I didn't give mine a choice. I just put them in and said, suck it up. The weeds aren't snakes and they're not going to kill you. So
That might have been where my compassion hit. I did not like.
So it
I
might be
love
a little
swimming.
it
I
might
don't
be
like
a little
swimming.
bit more work for our beach coordinator to sort of go through and figure out how to group these kids, but that's how we have done it in the past. That obviously worked well because it was like that for decades.
Excellent. That's a confirmation on my end, because a lot of uncertainty doing it that way.
All right, so can we circle back on something?
Sure.
Peter Hennessy did send in an application.
Okay.
Here's my concern now.
Yes.
If we as a park commission need to give a recommendation on him,
Yes.
we don't meet again till the middle of July, and we can't do that to. I don't think we should do that to a potential lifeguard if we need lifeguards. If we have
Is this a
don't know.
returning? It's a returning candidate.
it is not. It's somebody new.
Okay, so Karen,
Yeah.
how do you know he sent a
So Jared is here and if you might have heard me say, Jared, if you've heard something differently, and Jared just in the chat box to me said, just texted Peter. He said he did send in an application.
Okay, where is that? Where did he send it to?
It would
application?
go to Julie Bellevaux, and then it
Yeah.
would go from Julie to
Okay,
to-
so can we, the recommendation you're asking us to make, that we need to make, can we make it specific to the person and put a contingency?
but I'm wondering if we should just make a recommendation that if the rec director interviews and finds this person acceptable, that he can forward it to
Select
for-
board?
to the select board. for
Yes,
ratification.
let's do that.
That's a recommendation. I would second that.
So,
All right, I'll make I am recommending that the park commission grants Rob Thompson as recreation director permission to forward Peter Hennessy's name to the select board if he interviews him and finds him to be an acceptable candidate for lifeguard.
Second.
Any other discussion on that? Quick roll call. Anna,
I,
Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
And it's time for myself. Rob, I'm not gonna remember to email you on that, so mark it down. If you could follow up
Yeah.
with Julie in the morning and find his application. And I'm sure Jared is letting Peter know right now how this conversation just went down. So,
Fantastic. Another thing, I just I received the permit to operate as a bathing beach, so all that's squared away, as well as obviously the porta potties and all the securing of our new found equipment for our daily operations.
okay. Jared, at one point you had raised a concern, or not a concern, but there was some discussion on life jackets, kids in life jackets being supervised by parents. Please make sure Liz is aware of that when the beach opens, and you guys can work with, if you need to work with Rob, if you just work it out amongst yourselves. That's something that I don't think we need park commission involvement on. It falls under the day-to-day running of the beach. So I think you can do that without having park involvement on it. Jared, you're on for obviously most likely the beach. If you have anything, questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself and throw them out there because I'm about to move on to the next topic.
Karen, I've got 3 items before you move.
Sure, go for it, Dave.
Okay, first of all, has anybody located the AED that's supposed to be at the beach, and is that going to get transferred over there and secured somehow?
We do have the AED. It will not be secured in the building. We will have to, I guess, find a preliminary spot for that.
We talked about a job box on the porch to keep miscellaneous gear and the AED in. That would be locked during closed hours.
Yeah, I think the alternative spot would for storage would be at Harris Park.
Wallace Park.
Wallace Park, excuse me. We would utilize the storage facility there. But in the interim, I believe we could order a lockbox and have it secured to the decking, if that's a better method.
So how are you gonna do this? You're gonna transport it back and forth between Wallace Park and the beach every day?
If it needs to be in a facility, yes. If it can be with a person, then the director would probably be the one mainly responsible for
And they have to
transporting.
be trained and certified on it. Just be aware. They need to
Okay.
know how to use it.
So that would have, Dave, they would be because that's part of their
Part of the training.
enhanced
Okay.
life saving. Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Second of all, when is the staff starting?
Saturday.
They're starting Saturday.
Okay,
They're-
that leads right into my next question. You're gonna
Yes.
open the beach in the condition it's in right now,
Correct.
with the lifeguard chairs still under tarps and not out on the beach? The
No, I'm sorry.
lifeline across out in the water has not been
No.
placed? The beach hasn't been cleaned?
No, there's a lot of operational things that to the untrained eye seem like there's nothing going on. But there is from today as well as the next few days, it will be up to par for opening.
Okay,
It's-
I'll just let you know, I've got 12 pictures up on my computer as to what condition it's in right now.
Oh,
And
it's pretty.
I'll be
Yeah,
back here on Friday.
yeah. I think that's going to bring us to our next subject of scheduling of the cleanup and yard or maintenance of landscape.
All right. Hold on a second. I'm just reading something from Jared. One concern is the same as Dave's regarding the AED. Another concern would be regarding first aid equipment, possibility of sand on the beach, weeds on the beach, and the issue from long ago about weeds in the water. Though at this point, we may not be able to do anything. I have not forgotten about the weeds in the water, Jared. We have a brand new DPW director that came on about a month ago. He's gotten his feet wet, so now we have to have a conversation with them. And actually, there's a facilities director coming on, so it may even be,
They hired
unfortunately,
someone?
something waiting another month until that person starts, so that we have continuity of getting it addressed.
You hired a facilities director?
I think there was a personnel committee meeting tonight, and I believe that's what the topic was. So hopefully,
That's gotta be ratified by the Board of Selectmen.
you know, this is a random thought, because I know we don't want anybody in that building because structurally, but I'm wondering if opening the door, reaching in and putting down an AED, shutting the door and locking it without actually entering the building, if that's a possibility. And if it is, maybe that solves some of the concern. I'm assuming his comment about first aid equipment is similar to the AED, storing it so that it doesn't get ruined in the elements. Yeah, and then just basic beach cleanup. And it
I
sounds
I
like,
don't see why we can't buy a job box at Home Depot, again, with money out of the revolving account.
That's
which is
fine.
Readily available.
so I don't know how it works at Home Depot. Can you go down to, but I know I've seen Mackie or something on one of our accounts. Is that something, I don't know if Mackie would have it, but if you can get one, Rob, great. If we can't, obviously, we're gonna need to come up with some sort of alternative.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay. Bum. All right, this is the next fun one. McNally Snack Shack. So earlier in the week or last week, town manager asked what the park commission wanted to do about the snack shack at McNally. It's currently not being used because of the condition. I also pushed back on that one a little bit. We're being asked to make a decision on whether we want to salvage it or we want to tear it down and, rip it down, whatever. And I said, how do we make that decision if we don't even know if it's salvageable? And she actually went back to the building inspector, and I'm going to read what she wrote back to me. Let's see. When the building commissioner inspected McNally Field building, his inspection indicated that the second story of the building was not built properly when it was added on the original structure, and it is not structurally safe due to how it was added on the deterioration of the building. After talking to the building commissioner, he said anything is salvageable with enough money, but his opinion is that the structure was not built properly in the first place, and it is probably more cost effective to demolish it. If the commission wants to wait until a facilities director is on board, which I cannot estimate when that will happen, knowing the limited pool of applicants we in towns everywhere are seeing for positions, we can wait, but this may mean that it again will cut into the capital planning cycle. In my opinion, I would get quotes to demolish the building, and depending on the cost included in the FY capital plan for 24. So that was sort of her feedback on it. I don't know what anybody else's feedback. Looking at it, it was building piecemeal together. Dave?
Could I cut in? I had a
Yeah.
conversation with Casey, the
Building
building inspector today. I also have 8 pictures of that building from all angles that I have available up on my computer. But in general, what was said in that email is exactly what he said to me today. The demolition and haul away of that building after a few steps or hoops have been jumped through is in the realm of $4,000 to $5,000. That's once the other requirements are satisfied. And my sources told me that we could probably take care of all of the needed permits to take that down. Believe it or not, we do need a series of permits and or letters, that it would be no more than $5,000 in his estimation. We've got electric service that would have to be certified by Unitil, had been totally disconnected from the building. We have water that would also need to be certified by the water department, that it's been disconnected and shut off. The other issue you have with the water service is that, best I can tell, looking at the spot where the water comes, water line or meter is, there, I believe there's an irrigation system over there, and I believe the valves and piping and controls for that irrigation system are in that building. So all of the, 2 more things. Hazardous materials evaluation and rodent evaluation are all required for demolition of that building. But again, like I said,
Evaluation is needed?
But hold on, what? So-
Got to be
so
rodents
just-
living in there.
Yeah.
I'll evaluate it now. They got to be in there.
Exactly.
We
no,
say
what-
we want to have this demolished, wouldn't, because all these details, Dave, are like, the action, and that's outside our scope. Well, like,
Yeah,
we don't
it
have
is
to
outside our
manage it.
scope. I
No,
just
I'm just,
want
hold
you
on,
to
I'm
be
just
aware.
finish my sentence.
Go ahead.
If those details, like, that's a lot of information, and I'm not sure as Karen said, we're qualified, like, we don't need to make decisions and think about these things. It would be up to the town to take care of that.
Yeah, and the building inspector spelled those items out to me one
Right.
by one.
Right,
So that would be the process. I just wanted you guys to be aware that it isn't just to take a backhoe over there and put the building in a dumpster. That's all.
right, but that doesn't really add to, like, not add, I mean, that does add information, and I just learned a bunch of things. But that's not, that, I'm trying to understand if that, how that should weigh on our decision.
No, it shouldn't. Honestly, no, it shouldn't, except to be
Okay.
aware of the fact that it's just not you can't take a tractor over there and knock the building down and take it away under present law.
Right, but we wouldn't be making the decision to do that. It would be, we'll leave it to, okay, all right. Okay,
So I've actually, I know Dave, you looked at it today. I have also looked at it right after it was reported. I know Rob had gone down there, I believe as well, but I think based on what I've seen, that it's, I do not believe it would be cost effective to salvage it. And I'm gonna go a step further, and Dave will like to hear this. I think that if we are going to have a facility over there, and if we're going to do any work on a facility, having a facility with a 2-unit bathroom over there in a small area in the front, that whether it be storage or whether it be snack shack material, and maybe an open announcing booth up at the top, would be a better way to spend our money than trying to rehab a building that, and I use building lightly, it's more like a little shack type thing, that wasn't built properly. Because I think the extensive amount of work that would need to be done doesn't make, I don't think it makes sense. Personally, I don't think it makes sense to try to fix that building. And hearing from Casey Burlingame, the building inspector, that, he is in agreement that it wasn't built properly. And when I say properly, the building code of 1960, when it was probably built, or whenever it was very different from now. And maybe there wasn't any. So it very well could have been built by the town to code at that point. But right now, again, we're in another situation where once you start doing work to it, you got to bring it to code. And I don't think it would be an effective way to spend any money. It doesn't mean that we take it down and it needs to be replaced immediately. It's something that could probably be replaced, in the next few years, with a prefab type building that would be better suited for a park, especially if it's something that we get the water district on board and they'll allow us to use some of their land. I think that's a prime example of an area that we would need, or we would want to have something more than just portable toilets, and permanent facilities would be beneficial. That's my 2 cents. I don't know if anybody else.
I would agree with that.
I think we're ready for a motion.
All right, make one, Anna.
All right, I make a motion that we recommend to the town manager that the building at McNally to be demolished and not put on to repair.
Second.
Great. Any other discussion? Quick roll call on that. Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
Uh,
Anna?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
You're only last, Pat, because you're on the far right of my screen, and it's from myself. Don't take it personally.
I'm used to it.
Now I gotta remember to send that over to town manager. All right.
Is Little
Karen,
League aware?
I think
Little League
going
was on board
forward,
with that,
just
right?
to
Sorry.
get the comment out, over there at McNally, I think we touched on this in a couple of our conversations. I think the commission needs to take an overall look at that property. And I agree. I mean, hooking up a toilet facility in the general location where that building is right now is so simple, it's unbelievable. Because the pipe is in the ground in Lejeune Ave. So you're literally maximum 20 feet of pipe to tie in. And it should be a gravity feed. But I think we should be looking take a hard look at that entire park and see if we want to put a project together to possibly include the T-ball field so that we can not hold off on that piece of the improvement at Marshall.
And there was a request from town manager in the emails that she has sent us, by us, I mean me, that we come up with a plan for each of the parks, what needs, sort of like a 10-year outlook type thing of,
Yep.
whether it be pie in the sky or more realistic things. And again, I sort of pushed back on that too, and hopefully the facilities director will be good and will be able to assist in it. It's sometimes hard when you're walking a piece of property and you have a pie in the sky idea. Sometimes you can make it happen and other times you can't. And it would be nice to have somebody involved in that, so we're not throwing out ideas that realistically can never happen. Somebody wants to put in a swimming pool, that's a great idea, but a facilities director may have other thoughts on why that can't go in at a certain location, so hopefully, I think something like that is something that we should wait and have going through all of our properties when our facilities director comes on. I think it would be worthy. We have new members. We've done this in the past. I know Dave, you were involved. I can't remember who else was involved in the raccoon incident over at Marshall Park. Chris was, I can tell by his face. But we can walk those properties again and with a facilities director and, have some conversations around what to do too. So that was requested of us.
Was Little League in the loop on the condition of?
They actually have not used, and this is concerning to me, they have not used the second story of that building in a number of years.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they had planned on using the first floor this year.
No,
There
trying
are
to the
fresh-
back side of that building along so once demoed, there's gonna need to be some fencing repair. Nice.
No, that shouldn't need any repair.
It's not
Fence
part of
against-
the field.
It's not part of the field space.
It's not part of
Chris.
the field, so I can remember if there was space
It's
in there. but- okay.
freestanding. It's
All right.
freestanding.
Okay.
So my guess is probably gonna leave some sort of concrete slab underneath it unless that gets removed, whatever.
Karen, there's fresh locks on there, but I'm assuming that's because DPW put them on there to secure the water meters and timers and everything.
I have no idea,
I'm
but
not
I
sure.
actually just tried to look, Dave. I don't think we run irrigation down there anymore.
Well, that's too bad. That was gonna be my next question to ask Rob to check on that because
Rob, check on that for us, please.
the outfield is turning brown over there.
So, Rob, if you could check to see what the irrigation system is over at McNally Field, that would be great. And it's probably going to be a conversation internally with the DPW first. And hopefully someone know. I feel like that hasn't been on in a number of years. So,
I will find out.
great. I just emailed town manager that information as well on that decision. So, Dave, can we bump financials? It's almost 10 o'clock.
What
With that-
was it?
The financials going,
Oh, that's real simple.
okay, go for it.
The balance on our line item in the budget right at the moment under DPW is at approximately $21,000. The intent is that that town manager will have a quote for the repair of the beach building before they need to have the encumbrance paperwork in, which under her control can probably be the July 2nd even, but whatever. So the intent is that all that money is going to be encumbered for repair of the beach building. And then the revolving account as of a week ago, Monday, had approximately $64,000 in it that we'll be carrying over.
Okay.
That's it. That's all I need to talk
Did
about. on
you
that.
guys all got a copy of the financials, correct? I think Dave sent them to everybody.
I'm not sure if I forwarded them to everybody.
Yeah, I did not receive anything.
A lot of
Sorry,
times
no,
I
I
send
did
them to you, Karen, thinking that
I didn't get anything.
All right, I'm gonna forward them to you just because I think they're an interesting read. But I'm also the crazy person that started my Lunenburg journey on the finance committee, so not everybody might agree. I'm
Husband
gonna,
didn't learn.
what's that?
Your husband didn't learn.
Yeah, he runs things very different than I do, which is fine. He does his own.
it's an interesting read and it took me and Karen a few minutes to figure out what the heck we were looking at because all the journal entries are in there. Which one was it, Karen, that was basically the first half of the first page that was the important part? I think that's the revolving account showing the 60 some odd $1,000 balance.
It was confusing. So I'm gonna, when I find it, I'm gonna send it over. If you guys have a question on it, on how to interpret it, that wouldn't be a violation of an open meeting law. So feel free to reach out to Dave or I, and we can explain it to you. But I think, you know, just knowing what the money looks like, what we have coming in, what we have coming out is always worthy. And I can't find it immediately off the top of my head. So off the top of my email.
I
but
love
I
looking at
will-
financials, so just we know.
What's
It's
that?
actually fun. I love looking at financials.
Well, that's good. Maybe. We'll see.
It is good. It's kind
And
of
Anna
fun.
had actually brought up some questions as to, what was this expensive? What was that?
And I
expensive?
did, and I called and you know, they were like, oh, that's because he bought, by he, I mean Rob, it was, you know, the easy ups and stuff like that. So, you know, just, I think it's beneficial. I will find that. I am going to be emailing Anna the stuff on, I don't remember what topic, and I'll email the group the financials as soon as I find them.
Not on the survey email, survey information.
Survey email,
write-up.
thank you. Okay, all right, let's get this out. I don't feel well and I'm tired, so let's get this done. Do you have any other updates you need to provide to us? Rob?
In terms of the schedule of landscaping,
Just, and, yeah, so let me give the preface on this. We have received multiple complaints from the Little League, or concerns about mowing at the fields. Many times they've gone down, it's been overgrown. There's been times where private residents have been kind enough to go in and save the day and mow before varsity games. So I would love to know if you can give an understanding of what the mowing schedule is down there.
yes, it's going to be every Wednesday for all the parks that Lunenburg has under contract. Tomorrow, the beach will be completely done. That was something that I guess might have fell off their to-do list because of the condition that it's in today. Obviously hasn't been taken care of. So that was
So
addressed.
They do know, Rob, that they have to be let into that facility, correct?
Yes. Well, that's why we know they didn't do it, because they never contacted us.
And thank you, Dave Passios, for catching that one. Because when I said to Dave that according to whoever, it had been done at the end of April, Dave said, how did they get in? And I said, well, that's a good question. So that's when the questions were posed to you guys. So thank you for following up on that. And thanks
Yes.
for that quick thoughts.
Rob, what happened to the contract requirement of twice a week mowing?
It seems to be a select field that gets the twice a week mowing, and that's why we have a director now. He's addressed the contract. They've gone over it with a fine tooth comb and to take the generality out of it and get the specifics. So I believe they have it down to a schedule now. I don't know if the twice a week is mandatory or it's something that we have to ask for. I'm not clear on that yet, but it was mowed today. There was a game from the Lunenburg Phillies. I'm not exactly sure if there's going to be a second one this week or next week at all. So I
Yeah,
will find out.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but unless they've modified the contract, which I don't understand how you do that in the middle of a contract, it specifically states during the fast growing season that the athletic fields will be mowed twice a week. I mean, I read the contract. It
And I
also says
actually-
bagged.
I put it up online. So I want to make sure we all understand something, and this is coming from our DPW director. Don't want to be slamming Rob he's not the one responsible for the contract. So anything that we give him now, it is my request to you, Rob, that you bring this feedback back to the DPW director to address. In the contract, everybody actually has a copy of the contract in the Google folder for tonight. I actually put the request for bids or invitation for bids, the IFB, it's in there in tonight's meeting, so you can go through and read it. And I'm reading it the exact same way as Dave's reading it, saying that during the summer and the fall fast growing season, that the playing fields are twice a week. And I know I addressed this with Bill last week, that it's the grass on the fields needs to be removed. So that's what they agreed to in this contract. We need to be holding them to that. And why does the park commission get involved in that? Because it's our fields that we are saying to our user groups, we are preparing the fields for your use. It's what we have told them some of their fees cover. So if they're not ready to be played on, that comes back to us. I've had more complaints this year than any other time. And I guess I was sort of taken aback because we have this contract that was supposed to solve it. So if you could go back to them and let them know, or to DPW director, that, you know, we would like him to go back through that contract and look. It says there is the possibility of 2 cuts during any given week. And that's because of the growth season. And that additional mowings I can't even talk anymore. Additional mowings may be requested in the weekly mowing schedule of athletic fields. So I don't care how it gets done. It's just written like,
Yeah.
this was not written. I don't know who they consulted with before they put this out there, but it does not match the use of our fields. So, you know, I'm sort of all over. The bidder should, this is where Dave and I, this is what has hooked Dave and I on the fact that we believe that 2 mowings are supposed to be happening at Fitzgerald and Marshall. It's because under weekly mowing, it says the bidder should include 2 weekly mowings for Fitzgerald and Marshall Park for the anticipated vigorous growth seasons. But it's weird, like, why was Fitzgerald put in there, but not McNally?
Right, I was gonna ask that.
So, you know, it just wasn't it.
When you read the next part down, that says during the season when the turf is vigorously growing, additional mowings may be requested in the weekly mowing schedule of an athletic field. Therefore, there is a possibility of 2 cuts during any given week. Contract supervisor will authorize any additional cut. The additional cut will take place on Monday. So it's contradicting itself. So we're
Correct.
saying they should
Right,
include 2
right,
weekly
exactly.
mowings. And then it says, but we may request that additional mowing on a Monday. However, my question would be, what does the contract look like versus what's in this IFB?
This is it.
Is it, I mean, when they actually signed, we
I-
requested, I don't know what the actual end contract looks like. When they submitted their bid and what was signed, did they actually include 2 mowings? Because this contradicts itself. It says they should include 2 mowings, but it says we have to request the second mowing.
Yeah, Chris, I had the signed contract and the actual breakdown of all the properties and what dollar amount was assigned to
Yeah.
each property. It was in my email and it's no longer there. I haven't had a chance to go, I gotta ask IT why it's not there, but I can't go back that far. Now, I was always told that all of our email communications within the town are archived, required by law, so I'm gonna ask IT to dig it back out for me, because I can't get to it.
I just read, when I'm reading the IFB, it seems to contradict itself and doesn't necessarily allude to the fact that we're guaranteed 2 mowings a week. And I am certainly confused why McNally's not.
But I think it does, it means during the spring and the fall, there's 2 mowings. The high grow season. So now, right now, you're not gonna be mowing the lawn twice a week. Just because of the way the weather's running, unless it's an irrigated lawn.
Which it is.
And
But
that
the
Marshall is-
statement I'm getting caught up on is that it
Marshall's
says during the season when turf is vigorously growing, additional mowings may be requested in the weekly mowing schedule of athletic fields. Therefore, there is a possibility of 2 cuts during any given week. And then that second cut would take place on a Monday.
I guess just
So
remember
if that
that,
Mowing on a
contradicts
Monday and a
previous-
Wednesday seems kind of crazy, but,
exactly.
you know, that's besides the point. I mean, it's kind of mooted at this point. in the
Yeah, so if
season.
you could just, I guess, I just go back to the DPW director, Rob, and, you know, tell him that we still have some concerns over mowing. That, I mean, it's clear, at least it's clear at this point that Marshall Park, at least this past spring, should have been mowed twice a week. And I don't know how he's gonna get it. The summer's gonna be fine. I don't know what the fall's gonna look like in terms of usage, because we
Well,
don't get.
that would be a new contract. Because I think,
No, it's a 3-year contract.
oh, it's a
We're in the
3-year.
second year of a 3.
Okay.
So should we request a copy of the contract from him so we actually have the signed document?
Yeah, we could do that. He definitely has it. And if you're gonna ask for that, ask for the cost breakdown.
I'm happy to send him
could-
an email.
Can you do that,
Okay.
Chris? And just ask for
Yeah,
the
to say, can we
breakdown?
get a copy of the, you know, the lawn maintenance, right? Is that the word? Lawn maintenance contract, whatever word?
Landscape. maintenance.
Landscape.
Landscape contract, excuse me, landscape contract, with a cost breakdown of, you
Yeah,
know,
that sounds good.
Alright.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I will inform them of your
Thank you.
concerns.
I just want to make sure that it gets done. And although I am super appreciative, and I know who it was that went over and did the mowing, I think that's awesome. They shouldn't have to do that. You know, some of these parents that go out to do it out of the kindness of their heart, they have kids that are playing, and I'd rather them spend the time watching their kids play, or, you know, playing with their own kids in their backyard than having to worry about whether we've done a good enough job keeping up with our mowing. So.
Agreed.
All right, perfect. And make sure Joe, if you do talk to Joe Ruth, if you follow up with him about, you know, urinating in the woods, you know, make sure he has everybody, like your contact, to be able to say, you know, this field needs an additional mowing. Make sure you
Oh,
just.
he contacted me today about it. That's
Okay.
the reason why it was addressed today.
Okay. All right, perfect. This is the next favorite part of the meeting. You guys get to reconfigure your board. Does that mean I can go away now so you guys can do
still
it?
your board until it's reconfigured. I'm just
Let's-
saying.
I guess it's my board until I adjourn at the end. All right,
Very
so
assumptive of you.
here, I'm gonna give you my 2 cents as somebody that sat on this board for 6 years and has obviously made it very clear that I do not want to return as chair, because I think it is time to hand the torch. For years ago, we used to have a clerk position, and I actually think we had the clerk position as recently as when Susanna was here, even though her responsibilities weren't great. I think we need to implement a clerk position, and that clerk position should include something like exactly what I did when I said I need 30 seconds to send an email. As decisions get made, even during the meetings, it would be nice if that clerk position was keeping track of who needs to be notified, keeping track of, like, you know, any action items, that sort of thing, because I think things get lost in translation. So as we have this discussion over who's taking the chair, who wants vice chair, I think we should make sure we add clerk back in, so that we can, you know, make sure that, you know, even minutes are getting in and sort of spreading around some of the responsibility. Because right now we have a minutes keeper, which is great, but she sends it over. And then, you know, she asks you to, like, read through it. The clerk could even do that if the, you know, the chair or the vice chair didn't want to do it. You know, that could be a responsibility of the clerk. And then it gets put onto town letterhead and then uploaded for approval. But then it has to go to town hall. And honestly, I am the worst, because every time I log into my email to go do something, I find other tasks that are more important, and then I never get them over to to town hall. So I would strongly recommend putting in the clerk position again. So we
I
have
think you're
3
the
open.
chair, so you make that decision.
Well, no, I'm just, no, because I mean, if you guys didn't, if you, you know, if you guys didn't want to do that, you know, we wouldn't have that conversation, but that's just my 2 cents. So let's start with the hardest position to fill. The chair of this commission, of this lovely 3-hour meeting that I hope we don't do frequently. Interest level, I know Anna has taken, and I'm going to give a huge shout out and thank you to Anna. She really stepped up today when she knew I was super frustrated with a whole bunch of beach stuff, and she worked with Rob to get stuff up and running. So huge thank you for that. And she's asked some great questions in the past week. So I know she's interested in chair. I don't know if there's any other interests. I'm willing to entertain motions. What is your discussion on chair? You guys are super helpful.
We're gonna hear crickets.
Yes.
Kind
Pat,
of
make-
like,
I'll
I
make
think,
a-
I
I'll make a
recall
motion with that.
boards meeting, select board meeting of similar nature, where you literally could hear crickets from
Crickets.
outside.
crickets, crickets. So, what was that, Chris?
I'll make a motion and nominate Anna for the chair position.
I will second that. Do we have any discussion on that? It makes it easy. A quick roll call vote on that, Chris?
Well,
Right.
Yep.
I'll take a moment to say a couple things.
Oh, no.
Oh, well, I feel like.
Don't make me change my
I
mind.
I know, I don't want to blind vote, so.
You got
You
till
know-
10:13.
Right, okay, so when I first joined the meeting, the board, which was an appointed position through the select board, I did say, we used to be only volunteer, and now we have a paid position, but it's not a full-time, and it's not one that can do everything that we need to do. And I would be looking for ways that we could join the volunteer power that this town has had within parks, with what we have as funded by the taxpayers, to even get done even more things. So that kind of, it's interesting, because I still feel like, we could do great things if we find ways to join those two forces, the power of money and the power of volunteers. And the reason I have said I would accept this position by Karen's suggestion, is that, after being involved for more than a year, and more recently, I signed up to be elected to a 3-year position, I have committed the time. So that's why I think, I have committed the time, so let's do it. So that's where I think I'm ready to commit more time now.
Thank
It
you.
was something I thought.
You didn't have to sell yourself. It's not like you had.
It's
somebody
not
that-
selling. I just want to, everybody to know where I am
No,
with
and-
that,
And I will tell everybody on the commission, Anna and I talked about this in depth the past couple of weeks, and I raised a few concerns, and her answers back were good. I am interested to see where somebody who has more of an operational background, who does this kind of stuff, is going to bring us. I'm excited to see that. But and I will remind everybody on this commission, we are a commission of 5 people. We all have our own voices, and we all make our own votes. And if we don't like something, no matter who brings it to the table, our vote matters and our vote counts. And, our old commission things, passed at 2-1 and failed at 1-2. So, we, as a 5-member board, yes, we might be led by a captain that's different than, the direction I took things in, but that's not a bad thing. So, all right, let's do a quick roll call vote on that. Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Pat?
I,
It's an aye from myself. Who wants the vice chair role?
Chris, I need to hear from you before I say anything.
I will nominate Dave Passios for the vice chair position.
This is the most interesting combination I could have ever imagined.
Second that.
I think that's, Dave, you guys have 2 totally different sets of ideas. I think this is going to be,
And
this will be
sometimes that works. I work in a
absolutely.
manufacturing atmosphere where there are 3 supervisors presently on the same shift. They all operate a different way, and we haven't killed each other yet.
Yeah. No, I think it'll be good. Pat, do you have any commentary you want to put in that? Are you good with going to vote?
no, I'm good for the vote.
All right, let's quick roll call this. Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Anna?
Aye.
Pat?
I,
That's an aye from myself. Clerk position, I'm
I'd
more
like
than,
to nominate Karen
Be-
Nard.
before I can even get it out. I'd be, so I have a lot of documents in my own computer that I want to get out, and I have some ideas on, you know, just being able to, like, I literally want to go sit at the DPW one day and just run their printer into the ground, because I want to get all of the stuff that, you know, I've worked so hard for, Dave worked so hard for, and all of you, to get it out so that it's out of my computer. So I'd love to take on the position of clerk and get some of this stuff done.
Second.
Thank you. Anybody else have any commentary on that? Because I'm going to a vote. Chris?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Anna?
She said something, but we didn't hear it.
I'm sorry.
And
I don't think Anna voted for herself.
I
I don't
think
think we asked
so.
Anna's, I don't think we asked Anna's name, I'm pretty sure.
I don't think.
No, she didn't.
I didn't think I was supposed to vote to myself.
No, Dave
Anna-
voted for himself.
Well,
Yeah.
we all,
Yeah, I did.
well, we passed anyway, so if I
Yeah,
skip
we
one on
passed.
your vote, it's good.
Who cares?
I will vote for myself, so it's an aye for myself. So we're good on that. I'm gonna finish out your meeting, Anna, and then we'll go from there.
Can
Um,
I ask, just for a matter of, I would like to, I am on the Open Space Committee. I recently asked them to appoint me to the Economic Development Committee, and they appointed me. So I don't know if this is a reconfiguration, is something that we need to reappoint, but I would like to stay within that committee. I have not missed any meetings, and I bring the same flair and spark to those meetings that I bring to this one. So if the board would support, I'd like to stay on the Open Space Committee.
I would be happy to have you stay on open space.
Cool.
Okay, do we need a motion for that, or is that because I'm already
We can
there?
motion it. So I'll make a motion to have Anna Lockwood remain on the open space committee.
Second.
Second.
Quick roll call vote on that. We're gonna start with Pat, just to be different. Pat,
Shaking it up.
Aye.
perfect. Anna,
I,
Dave,
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And it's an aye for myself. I will notify the powers that be of our shift in boards momentarily. I don't
Hey,
think,
Rob, don't run away. I got one more thing at the very end.
I don't have any other matters other than, do we have any public or board comment? Sounds like Dave has one.
Yeah, just another note to Rob on the beach, and I thought of it a short time ago. There should be absolutely nobody of the public in the water at that beach until the safety line is anchored out in the deep water. There was some comments on Facebook last weekend and the weekend before of folks trying to recreate at Whalum Lake. And I don't know what the motor size limit is over there, but I know it's fairly high because it's a state run operation over there. And the speedboats zoom back and forth across that lake. And with the horsepower that they're using, they rev it up there across the lake in 30 seconds and they have to back off again so they don't end up on a beach somewhere. So it's absolutely imperative to our liability that that is up before anybody goes in the water other than the people putting it in.
Absolutely. That is the highest priority.
I'm done.
All right, awesome.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any more public or board comment?
Oh, could I make a public service announcement?
Yep. Oh, volunteer appreciation nights tomorrow for anybody that RSVP'd they were going.
Yeah,
And the notice that I sent to you is the only notice I got. So it's not that I didn't forward anything, it's the only notice.
can I show up even if I've been, is anyone going?
Yeah, Anna, just show up. I mean, it
Yeah,
can't be that
Chris
big
and I
a
are
deal.
going.
The only
you
thing
going?
is you may not get a goodie bag or something.
Exactly.
Last junk.
Um,
Is anybody here going?
Me.
I plan to be there.
can't
Public
go,
service
but-
announcement that has absolutely nothing to do with parks, or it has a little bit to do with the town. In my ultimate wisdom, as I'm backing away from committees and trying to tone my life down, I have volunteered to be a co-chair for the class of 1972 Lunenburg High School class reunion. Our 50th class reunion will be homecoming weekend, October 28, 9 and 30. And information, there is a Facebook page set up. So I'm reaching out through every possible venue to try to get a complete list of our classmates who are spread out all over the world. I have about, I think it's 8 or 10 classmates working with me at this point, and we're trying to divvy out the jobs and get this to happen. So anybody that hears this and knows where or has contact information for a member of our class, we're going to be reaching out through the Lunenburg Class of 1972 Facebook page, reunion page, to collect that information. And we will have a complete list of who's responsible for what, so you know who to reach out to. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Dave. All right, our next meeting is slated for July
Yes.
20th. July 20th. I will work with Anna on figuring out how we're gonna do agendas and figure out that piece. So somebody will be in touch on any agenda items that need to be, if we need to round up agenda items. And that is all. So do I have a motion to adjourn at 10:20?
To adjourn.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so is that-
Pat's already
Yeah.
asleep.
I
Hello?
knew this agenda was gonna be long before we even started the meeting tonight, and I tried to get stuff off of it, and Dave was like, why? Let's just start at 6 o'clock.
That's-
No, Dave, no, Dave. All right, motion
Yes,
to
second.
adjourn at 10:20 by Anna, seconded by Dave. Quick roll call, Chris,
Yes. Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Anna,
I.
and it's an I for myself. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
night. See ya.
We'll see you
Aye.
soon.
See you later.